with us where if you went to press one button, as soon as the code read that the cursor was close, it would move the button. So you could only press one of the two buttons. So anytime you tried to go to the button you didn't want you to press, you chase it around the screen.
Oh my God, that's maddening. What
So
is this?
we did that one time, and then I set it up where I didn't use that code. I just had mine where it would pop up and say, "Would you like to press no again?"
Would you like to press no again?
And you press it, and he says, "Would you like to press no again?"
Exactly.
Oh boy, you put that in a cyber cafe as a logon screen and see how many times it takes somebody. Oh, that would be funny. Would you like to press no?
That would be the one you would want to put into that first-person shooter game where somebody has to go up to a terminal to get information.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
They've cleared the level, and now they have to get information. Pop that up there.
You know where I would love to put that would be funny as hell, at an ATM machine, or a gas pump.
Yep.
That's Whoops. God damn it! I'm hitting every icon, but the icon I need to hit. It's Monday.
I didn't program your interface. Can't blame me.
No. Okay, can you guys hear me okay before we start?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Monday, the Supreme Council of the Master Geeks Lodge. I haven't been feeling 100% today. I'm going to blame the weather and all the overtime I've been working. I am Bill Kelly, Hornswoggle the Great, Psycho Bill, King of Ham. I am one of your many co-hosts on this journey into geekdom, geek culture, and just all around geeky stuff. With me I have...
Our guy, automotive detective, savior of all pedestrians, and also still a replicant as far as I know.
Still a replicant.
And Rob the Blacksmith and my many, many personalities, of which tonight only one has decided.
So tonight, among other things, because I made a big deal about it, it's National Rocky Road Day. Totally okay with this, yeah. National.
I can get along with that day.
National Love My Dentist. Well,
is it truly love, or is it just a gas?
I just waited till the ligament died enough, and then I just ripped the tooth right out of my head. If my sister can do it, I can do it. So now I don't have a problem anymore, I think. Also, and I love this one, and I wish I didn't have today off, National Leave the Office Early Day.
Whoa! But can you really?
Does everybody know? Yeah. Does
your boss
know?
It's nothing official. Tell the others.
Tell the others, yeah. Let's make it official.
If I was the manager, I'd be like, all right, everybody, it's leave the office to work today. What? Really? No! Get back to work. That was a joke. I would do that. You're a dick. Sometimes you have to be, yeah.
Only on days it ended.
Well, I got my paradise. Speaking of archaeology, it's archaeology now, but for some of us it was,
oh man, yep.
Being a mall rat in the 80s, and it may not have been Paradise Valley Mall, which was right near Guy and I within walking distance, and Ron, I don't know if Ron's going to be with us tonight. I did invite him. As always, he has an open invite. He's already a member of the council, but he's busy. So, let me click everything. There we go. So, yes, during a discussion at work, Twilight Zone is pretty awesome. And then we were talking about, like waking up in a different reality, but you retain all your memories. So, how long would it take you to go insane if you woke up in a reality where everything was the same, but it was like slightly turned to the side? So, for example, Oh, I can't. Yeah, this movie, and oh yeah, I know that movie. That was a great movie. That was Michael Keaton in Batman in '89. You mean Kevin Costner in Batman in '89? What? No, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson. No, Kevin Costner, Robin Williams. What are you talking about? Is this a joke? So what if they, what if you end up, what if you wake up in a world where all of the decisions that weren't were, as far as like casting, and not just that, like music and authors and things like that. So everybody's still the same. It's just that it's slightly off.
You know what? It depends on the degree. You know, like the game
Six
7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah,
It depends on the degree,
I'm
because
good at
if
that
you're talking about
game.
Kevin Costner, then you might be okay. But when it gets really extreme, then that's where you start going insane, because it's like something drastically happens that, like, you'd be saying the Pearl Harbor didn't happen. Then you'd be like, what? Something drastic like that would really mess with you, because it's so
Eventually.
drastic.
I think eventually you're right, but it goes back to what I was saying last podcast, where there's a universe out there where Chris Pratt played Deadpool and did a wonderful job.
Yeah, anything's a possibility. It just depending on how abstract. What would happen was you would go through the 7 stages, because first the denial, the looking at it like what's going on. Once you get the acceptance and anger and stuff, depending if you truly ever accept it. The only problem is the part where you go insane. It's if you think it's your fault if it's you,
Oh,
and that would drive you nuts. Because you would just be like, well, I'm the crazy one. Everybody tells me otherwise. I'm the crazy one. Because you start going into the gaslighting.
but you would
Or
remember. You would know
Yeah,
that you were in, for
well,
how.
I think where everybody would do it, like going with that channel, is everybody. If you were stuck in that, let's say you shifted into a parallel universe and everything was slightly off, you would hunt down proof of the existing universe, which would never be there. Because your universe doesn't exist in this universe. Where you came from don't exist. So there shouldn't be any proof. Unless there's a melding or something, or the melding of it. Then you might be able to find proof. Then you're not as crazy. You would have vindicated and validated yourself. But if there's no proof, like if you go into another reality, poof, you're in another reality. Your old reality is gone. There will not be no proof. You can search for it until nothing will be there.
Oh yeah.
If you're not, and you would either have to accept it and go, okay, it might be me, and that might be where the part where people go crazy, or you would never accept it, and everybody would look you at as an outcast, as a crazy guy, like a conspiracy theorist. They would be like, no, he's just a nut. You have no proof.
That's nuts.
Wow.
It's always a fun paradox to think about.
As you enjoy your Batman with Kevin Costner.
That was just an example. I
No.
don't have this burning desire to see Kevin Costner as Batman. If anything,
But-
they should do Batman Beyond and do.
Well,
Michael Keaton.
what an awesome perspective you have, because you would have seen the Batman with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, right?
Yeah.
But you get the opportunity to see the Batman with Kevin Costner in it.
And
You get an
Robin Williams
opportunity
is the
to
Joker.
Robin Williams. So what happens is you get to see it where everyone in your reality never will get to see that. Never. Where you get the opportunity. So the disadvantage that you have, you're no longer in your reality, but now you get all the benefits and disadvantages of the new reality. So you get to see things in a different perspective. And you go to it, hey, Kevin Costner didn't do a bad job. You don't know. Robin Williams could have been hailed as the greatest Joker ever done in that reality. In a morbid type of weird way, you would want to see that just to see it.
Just to see it.
Just to see it.
Well, I mean, like,
Just to see it.
I'm not really a Tom Cruise fan, but I would watch him as Iron Man just to see it.
I would just
Or,
to see it.
Who are those? I think John. I was talking about it in the inside discussions that you guys never saw. I suggested that Willem Dafoe or Johnny Knoxville would be a good Joker. in their prime, you know, and everybody wants to see Tom Cruise as Iron Man, and
Well, we wind up with a universe seeing Sylvester Stallone as Axel Foley in Beverly Hills Cop. You would have seen Eddie Murphy in Ghostbusters.
yeah,
That's just a slight change in our
and
reality.
John Belushi. Well, no, he still would
And
have
John
died
Belushi,
in the
yeah, if he
time.
didn't die, yeah. If he didn't die.
Mm.
So you would have seen different other movies that could have been and that was until something changed and altered it. So you would have seen other movies that would have came out would have been just because on it. But the sad part of it is too. Oh man, I hate to say this,
Yeah.
but the people who passed away here might be still alive there, and other people that are alive here might pass away over there.
I
So
thought I
everything
toyed with that idea, but I wanted to keep it pure. Let's just same numbers, different artwork.
Well, what I mean, it doesn't even have to be in family. Same artwork and stuff like. Certain things would happen. Certain actresses, like in that universe, Whitney Houston never OD'd. You'd be, oh wow, she lived to old age. Like it. Certain things and other ones died unexpectedly.
Yeah.
So you would have to different news articles, different people, how they dressed, how they talked. So just the ways that we talk now and how people do right now, and that other reality may have no bearing on no substance to it.
True.
What was it, Sliders or whatever, where they opened the
that was a good
portal, and
show.
each episode they went to another parallel universe, and some were very, very close. I think I remember the teasers showed things like the close parallel universes. Green meant stop, red meant, and they had to learn that as they moved in. Others were very extreme, and that was the whole process. They went from place to place, or from universe to universe, dropping in, and
Jerry McConnell and John
Yeah.
Rhys Davies. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was
no, that was kind of the point of that expression, was that
It was a great show.
they had pushed that program, and it did very well for a good time.
Yeah.
Now the question is, would you prefer to go into a parallel universe, or would you prefer to go into a different dimension? Because they're two different things. They're two separate things.
Can I pick the parallel universe? The one where I'm rich and I'm not constantly worried about money all the time?
Well, you don't know what it is, but it's third dimension.
What
It's
if I
third
wind up
dimensional.
Okay. What if I
Yeah,
wind
'cause
up
it's
as a
third-
paraplegic? That's not a good trade-off.
That's not a good trade-off, no. But what happens
Nothing
is
against
it's third dimensional. It's third dimensional. It would have some stuff similar to what we have. So there'll be like a somewhat of an origin in somewhat you can understand. Even though it'd be somewhat different, it's still what it is. It's just another parallel universe. But that's not necessarily another dimension unto itself. Another dimension could be something different. It's like going into a 4D dimension, a 5D dimension. All rules and stuff are all different. The universe as we know would be different.
Mm.
But then I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's bad. I have no idea.
It would be a safer bet going into a parallel, because then you know it's an episode of the original Star Trek series where they do a transporter thing, and it malfunctions, and evil Kirk comes out, and good Kirk goes to evil Kirk's world. And at the very end of the episode, Kirk's like, "How did you know it wasn't me?" And Spock says, "It is far easier for a good man to pretend he is evil than it ever will be for a evil man to pretend he's good." And that's what kind of drives my... It would be easier to go into a parallel dimension if you got the choice, because I think every human is dichotomous, and they're capable of as many benevolent acts as they are malevolent acts. It all just what's pushing you to this. The ends justify the means. So if you're pushed into a situation and you have no choice, because the only choice you have is to resist and be eliminated, your average person is going to go along with it until they can find a way to escape.
Mhm.
Even
I
though they're
agree.
doing we all do things we do not want to do, and we do them for social reasons, for employment reasons, for heredity, family reasons. We do it for all kinds of reasons. But in the end, you have to. I think each human is doing what, because it's that good and evil is a human concept, and it basically is a broader calculation of what I'm talking about right now, where it's like, for the most part, unless they feel they can take advantage, people are going to follow the rules, whether they're good people or bad people, because it's just easier to follow the rules. And it's only when you get them in individual circumstances that the true nature is revealed of other people.
Yeah. I think the parallel universe is a safer event because you could still navigate it, even though it might be skewered. Where if you go into another dimension, you're already at a great disadvantage because you are no longer, the rules may no longer apply
Yeah.
because you're a third dimensional being. Even though you're sentient, you go into a 4 dimensional, 5 dimensional space, you're at a big disadvantage.
Yeah.
You
I
can no longer comprehend or deal with any of that stuff there. So you're already at a loss, a big loss.
I would like to use the movie Ghost with Demi Moore
Mhm.
and Patrick Swayze, who I got to meet while working at a gas station. Cool guy. And it's when the other dude, the ghost on the train, is teaching him how to move objects. You still think you're real. You're trying to do it with your, you don't have you're just a mind now. And that's kind of how I think it would be going into a different dimension, because you would have to relearn how to move, how to walk, how to affect objects in it.
Yeah, how to see, how to think, because everything, if you go through the different dimensions, just how terrifying it is. Because think of it this way, just to put in perspective, we're 3 dimensional beings, but we only see in 2 dimensions. We don't honestly see in third dimension. We don't see
Our
3D.
brain does that.
Our brain does, but we really don't. Imagine if we did, how the world right now that we know would look if we actually saw it in a 3 dimensional space. Everything would look differently. Would look 3 dimensions on it. It's like those illusions that you see, but it would be everything. I don't think our brains could comprehend it. You take a third dimensional body with our 2D vision and you stick it in just the fourth dimension itself.
Yeah. Hey, our brain protects us from a lot. Even just our eyes, the way we perceive the world. Our eyes actually are upside down, and our brain flips the image the right side up. It's like that from the beginning is just a hellacious concept, because no wonder people go crazy all the time.
Yeah.
Huh?
That it's the stereo optics that we have that the brain is then able to turn into a perception of depth and the third dimension, as it were. People who cannot see from both eyes have a great disadvantage. They have a very major difficulty with depth perception, understanding that third dimension. You have to come up with a whole new process for trying to determine what the depth truly is.
Yeah.
So they tend to live more in a two-dimensional world, with the exception that they're constantly making that adaptation in everything they see to try and judge and determine what the third dimension is, where those with these stereo optics have the ability, the brain has the ability to then say, okay, if I'm focusing at this aperture, at this corrected angle, then I can judge that the distance is X amount of whatever units. That is how I make that distance. I can make that distinction. Uh, in addition, the brain can use auditory stimulus to help understand once the mind
Yeah.
understands those components.
Because sometimes it's different stuff. Sometimes it's a situation where it's the brain making you cover one of your eyes, and sometimes, don't think. Rob, did you ever meet Paul and I's buddy from Rent Fair, Sean Martin?
Don't think I ever.
He was an amazing actor, fantastic singer. He lives out in California now. He and his awesome wife, and he had, I think, a metal fragment go into his eye when he was very young. So when we would do a Bedlam show, I would be Jerry Lewis to his Dean Martin, and I would just be unhinged, and he would, play off me, and so, and he talked about, it's you just become accustomed to having just one eye, and Paul himself was the same. You looked at his left eye because his right eye was, as he referred to it, his dodgy eye. And when you looked at him straight on, he's looking at you, but his right eye's looking way the hell over there. And it takes you a little bit to get accustomed to it. I mean, obviously, he was used to it. But it gave him a great advantage, like during the SCA, because no one could sneak up on his right side. No one. He saw you coming. But on the other, and it was great, because he's like, oh, the haunted house. I'm like, oh my God, I would love to be you at the haunted house. You have two advantages over all the other actors. You have your dodgy eye, which freaks people out in real life, and now you're in makeup. And you have an accent, and that's Americans are terrified of accents. It doesn't matter where they come from. They have the fascinated, terrified. If it's in a good light, oh, it's amazing. If it's, oh my God, the scary Englishman. And it worked fully to his advantage. We're having beans tonight. Human beings. Miss me pudding. Those were his lines. So it worked. It worked, So the having to adapt and overcome, I don't want to call it it's not a hindrance. It's, it's what happens to you in life. Sometimes you don't have access to both of your eyeballs.
But you have a great
adaptability of the human mind.
Yeah.
Human mind is able to overcome a great many things in the right circumstance, provided that there is the support and the willingness of the participant, the support of those around. The human mind can overcome great many obstacles.
Yeah, you would have a better chance in a parallel universe because you would have friends and family that will still recognize you.
Support
Maybe
group.
not
I
as
didn't
the
even think
original.
about that. You're right.
You would have, and so what happens is you have somewhat of a support group, even though there might be another one of you running around that you have to worry about.
Okay.
But you would have a safe harbor, and certain things will still be familiar. They'll just be out of context, but they'll still be familiar. So what happens is your highly survival rate, without going totally nuts, you can rationalize the difference. But other ones where it's so absurd, you may not be able to rationalize the difference, that you might actually go mad. So if you go into a universe where everything, like it literally takes you and destroys who you are, everything you believed in, boom, then that's a different thing. That's going to destroy you, because everything that you came up to, you go into a universe where everything you believed in is wrong, and you come into this, you can have a crisis of faith, a crisis of everything. You might wind up in the loony bin after.
Yeah,
more everything, because then it's so anti of what you are and what you've been and what you are in it, you may not be able to navigate it.
I
You
think
may not.
you would be able to a point, and then you would try to escape.
You would try to escape it.
Just try to escape, because World War II is a perfect example. Where towards the end, once it got around what the Nazis were actually doing, when the lower like grunts figured it out, they're like, we don't want to be a part of this anymore. This is not what we signed up for. Fighting in a war is one thing. Murdering innocent children is another.
Yeah. You have to, you would like if you, and it depends too, how drastic it is. Because let's say you went to sleep one night or you were doing something, and you came into this other universe. If there's slight differences, it may take you a long time to figure it out. Because you may not notice it. You may go to work, go to here and stuff. Oh, this person's not here today. Okay, and you go on, but it's so slight that you really don't notice the difference.
Where's Jim?
But then
Who's Jim? Who are you talking? Jim, that
Jim,
guy. That
he was never. No, we don't have a guy named Jim.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, okay, I guess he quit or whatever. Oh, we never hired him. But I remember Jim. Oh, then something else would happen, and something else would happen. So and so won the World Series. What? No, Yeah. And then what happens is, as you go along, the longer you stay in it, and the more that you research and go in, that's where it starts snowballing. Because if you woke up and came up, you would go same day as normal, same shit, different day. Then you find out it's different day, different shit. Totally. So the whole statement, you might wake up and that statement is different. Same day, different shit, different day, and you're like, what?
And this happens a lot too, because it's not just coming up with Doomsday with Robert Downey Jr. and Reed Richards and the Big Switch.
Oh yeah.
They even I don't read a lot of JLA, but I did watch the animated series multiple times, and there's the episode where Lex Luthor and Wally West get switched.
Mm-hmm.
And Wally West is doing his best to pretend to be Lex Luthor, but Luthor can't really pretend to be the Flash. Of all the skills that Luthor has, he's not an actor. He's not a jovial, happy, good, happy-go-lucky character that has everyone's best interest at heart. There's no way he could pull this off, where Flash is like, oh yeah, the plan, hey you tell me about your part in my plan. Well, Lex Luthor might say something.
Yeah.
Hey, Flash,
That's
how
an
are you
interesting
doing today? What do you mean? What do you want? Or because it's funny. Sorry, real quick. It's funny because at one point Luthor runs away from everybody, and he's in the bathroom, and he's like, Clancy Brown is playing Lex Luthor. Gene Hackman, yeah, he's great. Sorry. According to the character, Michael Rosenbaum and Clancy Brown just knock it out of the park. He's, at least I can discover the secret identity of the Flash. And he takes off his mask and he looks in the mirror. I have no idea who I'm looking at. Because that's how it would be. You were like, oh, if you got put in somebody else's body and they weren't famous, you'd be like, who the fuck am I? I don't, who is this Jack? Who is this cat? Is my name Jack? Is it Steve? Is it, Rumfeld? What's going on? Is it Ira? It's not Ira, is it? Tell me it isn't Ira.
All right.
Because, I don't know, I think if you had a gaming background and you played a lot of video games and tabletop RPGs, I think you would be okay. I think you stand a better chance of survival. Or if you're a drama kid or acting. But if you're just like a normal work in an office dude, they're going to find you. They're going to figure it out. Soon. Sooner before later. What's up with Tim today? Tim! My name is Tim. Are you feeling all right? Are you okay? You're not on drugs, are you? No. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Tim feels really bad today. Yeah, it's not going to work.
No, but that would be interesting. because
Well,
they're two different things. One is going
Both of
into
you
a
are talking
parallel.
at the same time.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Guy. We'll have Rob next.
It's that the one you're talking about going into a parallel, the a parallel universe, and the other one is switching bodies. So you can have that in the same universe or another universe on it. The reality is, right now, you're no longer who you are. You're not the same person. It's a quantum leap versus sliders. Quantum leap
Ooh, good
is way
example.
different than sliders. Big difference. Because now you're enacting that person, and whatever you do as that person in that reality affects everyone else. But you're not that person. So what happens is you now affect different things on it, and you're not your person. You're not yourself. You're not you're your consciousness, but you're not in your body. So as you're jumping from place to place, from different locations, from different things and times and periods, it's not you. It's just your consciousness. You're in somebody else's body. So you could be as good as you want to. You could be as bad as you want to. You're not going to suffer any um, consequences unless they figure it out before you do. So if you do something stupid and all of a sudden they attack you because you're not who they are, or they think you gone mad, then you could suffer consequences right there and then until you leap out. And that's if you leap out. So sometimes you got to be careful. It's a double-edged sword, because just because you leaped in doesn't mean you can leap out. Where another universe, you're kind of stuck there until you figured out how you got there and whether or not you can come back. But you're you. You're physically you. You're you. So that's not going to change. So you have a point of origin. And quantum leap, that's a lot more trickier because you're not in your own body.
Yeah, you have the physical limitations of the person you're inhabiting. Like
You're inhabiting, yeah. And the location of where they're in and what they are. So you could have been you in a certain location and be fine. But since you're this person now you're not. So it puts a whole new thing on it, and it may make you go insane because unless you have a mirror and recognize yourself, you see another person in the mirror that you wouldn't recognize. And that in itself would be maddening. Think of it. You wake up in a location you're unfamiliar with, but you're already assuming it's you. Then you look in the mirror and it's not you. And you're trying to figure out what kind of horrible nightmare I'm in. This is not my face. This is not my hands. This is not my body. This is not my friends. This is not my... What? I'm married. Like, what? See what I mean?
Yeah.
You can wind up going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs really quickly because it's not your life.
Go, Rob, go.
Oh no, I was just gonna say there was that little exchange reminded me of, I had an image pop into my head a long time ago, old, and Bloom County had a similar idea in one of the panels. It had Opus was looking at Build a Cat, and Opus looks at me and goes, "Chirp." I say chirp.
Opus the Penguin. He's awesome. That was a great comic strip. I love when they used Steve's wheelchair to play Star Trek in. That was always the best. All the animals all over his... Stardates 2.64529. We are in the Omega Quadrant.
Well, that was good.
Was it Naked Among the Periwinkles? I remember that was a screensaver in the early 90s that he had.
Somewhere.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, somewhere I may still have the very thin acetate square 45 that they came out with. That was the single song from Billy and the Boingers.
I'm a boinger. I have it somewhere too. And then the flip side of it was "You Stink, But I Love You."
Yes.
Oh my God. Square LPs. Oh my
God.
It came with the book.
Yep. You pulled it out of the front of one of the books, Billy and the Boingers, and played it. I played it a couple of times. We could probably find it somewhere online.
It was Hodgepodge was a gopher or a squirrel, and he was on drums. Gopher. And Opus, the penguin, was the tuba player, and Bill the cat was A cat.
The electric tongue.
The electric tongue. And I guess he was singing too. It was a real simple, fun 80s thrash metal song.
Yep.
It was pretty silly.
Bill would
I'll
electrocute
post it
himself
on the
every so often.
Billy and the
Yeah.
Bangers. Oh, I'm not gonna play it because we don't. Yeah. Anyway,
I don't know how many times they had in the panels, there would be something, and oh my God, did Bill electrocute himself again? Yeah, he forgot to ground himself.
they would be taking him off in a gurney to the vet, get him back to life. Oh, so caveat. Let's go sideways now on the same traveling against your will through time and space. Without doing any massive research, but watching a lot of Doctor Who, I think the first Doctor that encounters the Weeping Angels is Eccleston, the Ninth Doctor, or the 10th Doctor, David Tennant's Doctor. Anyway, the Weeping Angels move when you blink and when you're not looking, and when they touch you, they send you randomly back in time. That would be terrible. Because what we know of time and the era that actually existed is just the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
So to be thrust back 500, 600, 1,000, 2,000 years, you wouldn't be able to communicate with anybody.
Mhm. I mean, the only way you would communicate would be rudimentary stuff, signs and stuff, which a lot of people would think you were mute or dumb. Because you would go, for food, and you would communicate that way because you would speak something they wouldn't understand it. We would be speaking English.
Yeah.
They wouldn't understand it,
You'd have
but
to
they would try
draw
to communicate
pictures of
that.
stuff in the dirt.
Yeah.
And if you started using writing, they wouldn't be able to read it anyway, and they would think that you might as well be an alien.
Yeah. It just that you're human, people would distrust you, but they wouldn't. Like I said, depending on where you're at too, because sometimes if you're perceived as the enemy, they'll kill you on spot.
Oh, yeah. Not only
But you
that,
would have a chance.
you don't have much time. Our immune systems are weak compared to back in the day, and there's no penicillin, there's no antiviral, there's no. You're lucky to find soap. Go ahead and drink the water, but I'd boil it first. So yeah.
But think if you were a student in that time, you would start to develop the stuff.
Yeah, you'd have a better chance of. Because there would be that, oh, we got this wrong. They think I'm insane and from the devil because I know something that's not going to happen for 500 years.
So you would be you would have the foreknowledge of certain things. Even a regular layman would have enough information to do stuff, that would seem like a god, or depending on certain people, because you have foreknowledge of things that even somebody who reads the paper will have foreknowledge of what's to come. So you would seem like a Nostradamus.
Pretty much.
You would be considered mad or whatever, or sightseer or something. Even if you survive that long,
maybe Nostradamus
you have to survive that long.
Traveler.
And you would try to figure out time how to get back, but there's not enough equipment to get you back. So if you were touched by the Weeping Angel and stuff and sent back, now my only question is with the Weeping Angel, and I'm trying to remember my lore on it. Is it truly random to them or to you?
That's a good question.
Because whenever I remember Dr. Who, they were sent back in different times and time periods and stuff, but it was always relevant to somebody or something.
Well, hold on. There's a fatal flaw in the whole design story anyway, because predators don't hunt for pleasure. Well, okay, most predators don't hunt for pleasure. And hunting requires a fantastic amount of energy and resources. So unless they're getting some kind of nourishment or fuel from sending you back, what's the point besides to shatter a human's psyche and then have them tortured?
Yeah, there's
So there's
so
a fatal flaw in this. Like, what is this all about? Do they get power when they send? Is this, you know? Because we don't. Time travel is a myth and can never happen. But if we were, you know, able to send somebody back in time, that would it require an incredible amount of mathematics and energy.
Time travel is actually not a myth when you look at it from a physics standpoint, because we are all time travelers. We are traveling time. We cannot leap beyond a specific period, and we cannot return backward. But we all travel through time. That is, mathematically, that is considered the fourth dimension, because everything that humans do, everything that you think of, when you speak to someone about an action, an activity, an event, you have to use 4 points of reference.
True.
There was always 4 points of reference, 3 of which identify the particular location. The fourth point of reference is always time. So we are always time travelers. We just cannot move back.
Yeah.
We went from, wow, they're connected. Time and dimension and alternative dimensions, and because if we're not an alien ant farm to a being's 46 dimensions over, we're an amazing television show.
Oh yeah, it'd be a sitcom.
I'm pretty sure that's where the flying spaghetti monster lives, and to his race, we're like, you know, Benny Hill mixed with all of
We're the Jersey Shores. That's what we are. When it comes to the universe and the multiverse, this planet is Jersey Shores. And everybody else tunes in every so often until it just gets too damn stupid. And then they go look for whatever version of Richard Attenborough is 2 channels over.
Yep.
And then they arrive on the beach, secure in the knowledge that they'll have enough to eat.
That's why the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is the ultimate statement of truth within the universe.
Mostly.
First, the universe was created. Most people determined that it was a bad idea.
Bad idea. Why did this happen? Can we get a ruling on this, please? So that's the fatal flaw. Otherwise, the concept of the Weeping Angels is that as a story arc, it's pretty awesome. In the actual real life physics, this doesn't make any sense. Okay, I'm just gonna go with, you know. That's the beauty of fantasy. Just suspend disbelief. Pretend it's fine. Just go along with it. Don't question too much. It's just a story. It doesn't even have the secrets of life in it. It's just entertainment. Not every story has to have all the answers to the universe. Just enjoy it.
But I do have to say one thing. If I ever had the chance to travel back in time, and there's one chance I would do it, there's a certain party I would go to. One party, one thing, and it's to talk to somebody about a certain time conjecture.
Uh-oh. Now what are you bothering Tesla about?
No, I'm not bothering Tesla at all.
What?
I'm doing it.
He's
I'm
like
not bothering Tesla at all. No, he's in the top 10. Would be there. No, I would go to the famous Stephen Hawking party that he threw for time travelers.
Well played, guy.
The one that nobody knew about, but he threw it.
Yeah.
He had it there. Welcome time travelers. If there's time travelers,
because you would know if you were in the future to go to the past at that moment and be like, Steve, buddy, what's up?
Buddy,
let's play backgammon.
Guess what? Like, backgammon, yep. Just that one there. Because any other point you can be in,
Oh, that's good.
and
Well played.
that point is the one I'm going to meet Stephen Hawking just to say, I was here, I've done it, and he's got enough wherewithal to say it happened because I was there. I would go to that party, that party, have drinks with Stephen Hawking and whoever was there, spend as little time I may have, who knows what, if I'm going back, or even if I don't go back, I was there. I knew about it. That already proves the point that it happened.
We'll write a story about a group of like 35 time travelers, all from different points of time in the future, and they go to that party, but they don't show up. They're all like hiding in the lounge next to where the party's taking place. And they have to like keep people from coming in the room, or they have to hide when people come in the room, or use whatever technology so that the people don't remember that they saw people from the future.
From the future and stuff, whatever, but they're all there at the party. See, that would be a hoot.
Why
of
are
all
you
times
all here? One of us is going to steal his left shoe, but we haven't figured out whose that's going to be yet. Why don't you just draw lots? We already tried that; it didn't work.
I would change his machine into Spanish, so when he spoke, everything was in Spanish.
Buenos noches.
Buenos noches, ¿cómo está?
Me gusto, Steve. Mucho gusto,
I would
Steve.
I would hit the sap on his wheelchair.
I'll leave the Spanish to you.
See, I would want to go back, but I would want to have Harry Potter's dad's cloak.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh.
And I would want to be able to just go to different time periods, put the cloak on, and just walk through bits of history and pimp slap certain people. Nothing more. That's the only interaction I want. Walk through and pimp slap someone. So, Napoleon is standing there and he's acting the fool, and just come up behind him and pop him in the back of the head as hard as I possibly can, and then pop out and move to the next.
Knock his hat right off.
Yeah. Pol Pot, Hitler. There's a list.
There's a group of people that and some of them are not famous. Some of them I do. So it would be a case that they're, how does that go? There is a list. It's long but distinguished.
Reason 85 to stab Edison.
Like I said, I don't want to change any history to that extent. I just intend to go in and do what I call a soft reset. It's not a hard reset. It's a soft reset. I'm going to slap him in the back of the head and move on.
I've been sent from the future to kill you after you lock all the doors. What? Well, if you've got the Harry Potter cloak, if we're having total fun in this fantasy. Yes, you're going to do this, and this is going to happen. So we decided to come back and, eliminate the problem. Stretch out your neck. Lay down on the desk. Oh, my God, no! There's no one to save you. I've already killed everybody.
If I was going to do that, though, I mean, if rather than kill them, then you go back to an early meeting of Hitler and the brown shirts, and you pants him, and you move on. You do shit like that. It's like, hey,
humiliate him so that he,
yeah, he never does it.
I'm not looking to be because I mean, you could pop in and out and do all kinds of things, but show up and it's like, let me explain to you why you're stupid. Bye.
There's a lot of stuff that you could witness and that we would know firsthand. But again, are you being, do you have the choice, or are you being thrust backwards?
Yeah.
Well, and
because
what is the paradox of? You have the paradox of, are you changing a circuit? Because then you start talking about quantum physics.
Yeah.
Certain aspects of quantum physics. The only reason something happens in quantum physics may be because it has been observed. Because it was not observed, it may have been something different that happened. The actual item, the thing that transpires may transpire because
Yeah.
it is being observed.
Well,
So
Schrodinger.
the reason I hate time travel is because time travel is abides by the fantasy of traveling through time, whether backwards or forwards, when you return, is the same uh, reality of you can never go home. You can never go home because it's still home, but the time is different. The people is different. The things. It's the river analogy by Herculitus. You can't. It's. Did we talk about this last time? I know I talked about it. We were talking about it.
yep, you can never cross the same river twice.
Not just that, but the end of Back to the Future, the original one in 1985, the first movie. I watched a video on it and I was like, oh my God, I never really looked at it that way, but it's true. Before he goes back, before Doc Brown gets killed, because in the original timeline, Doc Brown is dead. He gets killed by the Libyans for selling them pinball machine parts instead of uranium, because he uses the uranium to go back in time. Spoilers for Back to the Future. You've probably seen it. If you haven't, watch it. So, before he leaves, his older brother Dave works at a fast food place. His older sister is also still living at home, and the older brother is the focus because he's, well, I mean, unless he's in college working at a fast food place, you should be moving on, finding another job by then, acquiring other skills. But he's happy. He and the dad, George, Crispin Glover's character, are laughing at the reruns of The Honeymooners, and they're both having a good time, and he's enjoying life, even though he doesn't have a high-ranking social employment. When Marty comes back and he wakes up in the morning and he's already gone back to 1955 and now he's back in the alternate 1985, Dave is buried in a newspaper, not watching the television. In fact, I don't even think the television is on when he comes back because George is the center and focus of the family's attention, not the television. And Dave has coffee and he's reading the newspaper. The sister is in a better mood, but she's still kind of whiny. And when Marty mentions that the vehicle is wrecked, Dave flies into a rage. Nobody ever told me that. Why do I know it? Why am I the last to know that the car's wrecked? But really, the car's not wrecked because that timeline, Marty no longer has access to that timeline. That timeline still exists, but he's no longer, his conscience for that world is now in this conscience for this timeline.
Yeah.
So, time travel and train tracks have a lot in common. You have to stay on the track. If you jump the track, you're on a different track. You're in a different timeline. You can never go back to that other track. Or let's say Marty is able, because in reality, they would view him as dying with Doc. Because he just disappears. He goes back in time. So when he...
Or
Go ahead.
Or there's another theory. Is that he wasn't jumping through time, he was jumping through parallel universes at different time periods. So as the dimensions were going on, he went back to a dimension where he was over here. When he jumped to the future, he jumped to another one where the similar outcomes would have been on it. We assumed it is. Doesn't mean it really was.
Yeah, it's possible.
So we don't know if it's linear. That's the thing, like you're saying about the time tracks. We don't know if it's linear at all. Because when he jumped into the past, then was his past. He jumped into possibly another parallel universe at that particular time. Then when he jumped out of it, he could have jumped into another universe that was similar on the track at the other one with slight differences. But since it's all different, he doesn't recognize it. He
That's
wasn't from that universe there in the 50s. He has no point of origin, just
no.
what his universe, and he jumps into his new possible future and he accepts it. But that was never his entitled future, what it was supposed to be.
It's like the movie Mr. Destiny when Jim Belushi encounters Michael Caine at the bar, and he's like,
Oh yeah.
you missed the winning swing, so you feel that your life has gone a certain way down a certain track. Really, it hasn't. It's your perception, and it's
Mm-hmm.
true. I mean, he has an awesome. Mr. Destiny is defending your life without Christmas, really. So you have an awesome life. No, I don't. My life sucks. Actually, it's pretty awesome. And in It's a Wonderful Life, he erases him completely. George Bailey never existed. And in Mr. Destiny, he hits the ball instead of missing the ball. And he marries the beauty queen, but he's miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all comes down to careful what you wish for. Let me show you what it's going to be like if I give you what you're asking me for. And this isn't a new trope. This is a very. I'm trying to think of really old literary things, older than what we've just discussed. Like the prince.
Well,
It's the Prince and the Pauper.
yeah. Well, a lot of things is with time travel and the time travel conjecture is that the
It's a
universe,
convoluted
the
plot
universe traveling through
device.
the the Earth is traveling through space.
Yes.
So we're traveling through space. The universe is traveling through space. So precession is a thing. So what happened a year ago? The Earth is no longer in that position where the Earth was in a year ago. Neither was the universe as it's over expanding. So time and space going into those dimensions. We're not in the same time or same space. So if you were to travel through same time in our space right now, that's not our past. Our past is way back over here. We don't know what we're going into if we go into another dimension because we're only doing it linear in that time, in that moment, in that particular thing. So the 50s, as we are in the universe right now, as the planet is hurtling down through the universe right now in orbit around the sun, we are way past what we were a year ago. We're hundreds of billions of miles different in the scheme of things from it.
Dude,
So we are so remote from where we were a day ago to where we are right now that we could never bridge that distance, that time and place, and where it is. It's no longer the same. We are like a bullet being shot out of a gun into the universe,
oh yeah. It just
and that's
keeps
how
going.
fast relatively we're moving. So time and place, it's relative because we're not in the same time and in the same place as we were when we started this broadcast.
We're getting really
So,
deep. Like and subscribe.
like and
Body and
subscribe.
Soul
So,
Candles. Support them.
so
She
that
supports
so
us.
that's why Hawkins had that little conjecture saying that there's certain things placed into the universe, into natural law, that prohibits you from going back because it's always moving forward.
Yeah.
So we may have future time travel is beating the rate in which we pass through time, but to go back, that's almost an impossibility because of how fast we're moving. To hit back into the other direction and to bring everything back with us, you know, there's nothing feasible. There's no engine out there. So much power required up there. You literally may destroy the universe in trying to do it.
Yeah. Well,
So
okay. Wait,
it's a
wait,
good
wait.
thing.
Here,
Good thing to imagine about.
here's something that I've been working on for the past couple of months. So I constantly worry about our society for the idiocracy factor.
Oh,
You know, because it's not just the 30-year gap. If you're not teaching your
yeah.
kids about the past disappears. But it really doesn't because we have the internet. And as much as, oh, the internet, blah, 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 the internet is a fantastic tool. I watch a disgusting amount of documentaries. So it's eventually people get tired of being dumb and they start
Mhm.
to research hobbies, to research interests, to research things that they find interesting, and it snowballs. One thing led to another. How did you get into this? Well, I started doing this, and then that got boring. So then I found out about that, and now we're doing this now because this is just badass. And that, so it, if people are introduced, okay, we have an entire generation of grandmothers soon that do not know how to cook, bake, sew, embroidery, needlepoint. Should I keep going? I mean, home ec. Home ec used to be like, hey man, that's a great place to meet girls. So how's your home ec going? You talk to Cindy. I know you've been staring at her for like 2 years, and you're too chicken shit to go up and say that you like her. So she says no. So then you get a good friend. There's no loss. No, but now I know how to do this and that. 450 degrees and eggs and da 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 da, and the holy trinity of the tomato. So if you just put one guy in home ec, you're actually teaching a lot of other guys through the ripple effect of men can't wait to share information in the month. Did you know about this? No. Tell me all about it. So it's.
Well, you brought on a great point because through history, because I watch a lot of stuff too. And what I've learned, and when you look at history and stuff on it, you have what's called the ripple effect, and you have extinction points. And what I mean extinction points, it's knowledge extinction. Because look at the pyramids, and I don't mean just the pyramids of Egypt. This is a way of building, constructing things that took more than geometry. We can't figure it out, but our ancestors did. And what I mean by ancestors, and I won't say the Egyptians. I won't say the Egyptians built the pyramids. I think they inherited the pyramids.
You think
I'm
so?
not going to say. I'm not going to say the Mayans built it because I think they inherited the pyramids or a way of making construction of it. The Olmecs, yeah. So somebody did build them. We had extinction things in the past where humanity came to a bottleneck, and information was lost, gone, wiped out from the records. So if you looked at it, if the Egyptians actually built the pyramids and they wrote their thing on it, why didn't they write the stuff and how it was built? And why couldn't they replicate it in the later dynasties? Same thing with the Chinese, the same thing with the Mayans, the Toltecs, the Aztecs. They couldn't replicate it.
Not
So
just,
that they lost the knowledge.
not just time travel or interdimensional travel, but let's say it's a Jim Belushi night. We're paying homage to his acting ability, not just movies like K-9 Cop and what was the other one we were just talking about? Mr. Destiny, but also there was a movie with him and the fantastic and amazingly versatile John Ritter called Real Men. Moon Pie. Do you remember it? Have both of you seen this movie?
I almost thought it was the one where John Ritter was going through the different shows and stuff through time. The parody.
John Ritter kind of plays just like a normal guy, and he runs across Jim Belushi, who's actually a special agent for the government. He's in, I think, the CIA or the FBI. And the best part of the movie, clown attack! What are you talking about? You don't understand. We had to infiltrate the Ringling Brothers and Barnum Circus, so agents have been dressing up as clowns for... All these clowns are coming down the alley, and they're using, like, military hand signs to do formation in a small platoon of, like, 12 of them. It's really funny. The whole purpose of the movie is the aliens come to us, and they say, what can we give humanity? Would you like the good box, or would you like the big gun? Well, what do you think our government wants? So at the very end of the movie, John Ritter finally goes to the location, and the alien steps through the door. And he's like, you're human. you look just like us. And the alien tells him, well, yeah, we're all brothers of man in this galaxy. And even though it's a goofy action adventure comedy, and again, it's lost to obscurity. Nobody in this panel here has seen it but me. It was very deep because, yeah, if there were aliens in this galaxy, we would probably look mostly human. It would be Star Trek, where people would have like extra brow ridges and whatever they were raised on another planet, so they would look like us but slightly different. But anatomically, we would probably be pretty close. I think our physiology would you'd be able to do. It'd be the oh my God, I hope the green women of Orion exist from Star Trek. Not that because they're slaves, but because they're green, and that's my favorite color. And the idea of a green woman, well, that's very exciting.
You want a green redhead? That's
Damn straight I do. Like the one from the reboot with Christopher, the horrible J.J. Abrams. That was the only good part about it. That and the stellar acting cast. Chris Pine, and he's great. I have to say, and I keep telling my sister, if it's okay, let Willow watch the new Dungeons and Dragons movie, because there's a lot of lore from the Forgotten Realms in it, and he is hysterical as a bard. And then the way Willow, she's like, I want to be a druid, and I want to change into animals. Oh, so you basically want to be the tiefling character from the movie. Well, you can be this or you can be that. And I made the mistake of telling her that there's the cat people. There's cat people? Okay, you want to be a tabaxi? Better read up on those. They're one of the newer races. I don't really know a lot about them. I've read it like one time and watched a video, and that was a couple of years ago. But it's probably the Anunnaki. They may be like 20 feet tall, but they're basically titans. They're probably where we get the rumors of the stories about giants from. Huge, proportionate man.
If you look at it, any alien race has to overcome the same questions and same problems we have.
Yeah.
And literally, for them to get into spaceships to build them here, to fly across from the Andromeda Galaxy, you're talking a generational ship. So you're talking about, with the means that they have, if we have aliens, they're not flying here in ships.
What if wormholes are involved, where they're just passing through?
Here's a caveat. If you can do wormholes, you can master time travel, because you're warping time and space around you. So doing a warp engine in itself, you have the understanding of how to flex time and stuff on it. So you're already beyond what is capable in our universe. You would be dimensionally traveling then. Why would you need a spaceship if you have that understanding? If you have that understanding to create an engine, you could do a teleportation. You don't need to travel through space.
What if it's more like Time Bandits? Because that's all I can hear right now.
That's what I mean. It would be Time Bandits.
We only had 7 days to make it. There's pinholes everywhere.
It would be like Time Bandits. No. You wouldn't have a physical ship. You might have a thing you step through. Would be like a Stargate. Because if you think about it, why would you need a physical ship to travel over there? It's like, do I want to get a ship and travel to Mars, or do I want to do my Doctor Strange thing and just zap there? If you have that capability, you're not going to put the resources into a ship that would take you 2 lifetimes to get there. And when you have that technology, you're already breaking time and space. You're already breaking that continuum. Look, you know how much power that is? If you think about it, just with the science involved.
Let's say the whole cosmic prison concept is correct, and let's say the old galactic empire is no longer in existence, but the we're still being punished for being artists and all the other stuff. So what if humans are still like maintaining that part of the galaxy for the old galactic empire and the old regiment? So they're doing
Maintaining
like,
wall.
well, like Lister and Rimmer and Red Dwarf. They're there to make sure that all the chicken soup dispensing machines are functioning properly. That's their job. Before Rimmer accidentally kills everybody.
Yeah, but in that analogy, is that we stopped doing our job a long time ago.
No, 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 no. We stopped doing our job on Earth. You mentioned
Yeah,
the Andromeda Galaxy. So if you've got a galactic wide multi. Uh, okay, let's say the Greys and the reptiles and the big blue or the blue humans, let's say they're all left over from the old Galactic Federation. And let's say they made humans far, far away long, long ago. And the Anunnaki just kind of made another version of human on Earth because it was convenient and they didn't have to get approval. Because, I mean, in the beginning, humans were basically robots. We work, we live 40 years, we die. As time goes on, our lifespan has increased over 250,000 years to 75, 80. But in the end, we're falling apart. Like I had a boss, I'd pay any money to have, I would have kept my mother going. Dude, from all that you've told me, she was pretty much comatose. At that point, are you just keeping her alive for you, or are you keeping her alive for her quality of life? Because it doesn't sound like she's enjoying it very much. And most people get to be like my dad was, where he was like on the roof and doing all kinds of stuff just so that, you know.
yeah.
We went. It's death by cop, death by suicide. You and I went to high school with. It was. I don't want to talk about it while we're live.
Yeah. When you're looking at the universe, you're looking at anything, and that's why I have a hard thing of looking at aliens come to us in a spaceship. Just like anything, you have to build it, you have to make it, you have to maintain it, you have to go through this whole universe with all its dangers to make it here for what? Then you have to make it back home again. So the problem is going through all that expenditure, even if you were another alien race, even human or whatever, ant, whatever, the voyage that far, it would have to be a generational ship because just the universe, just the laws of the universe, you cannot travel the speed
Yeah.
of light if you have any mass.
No.
If you don't have any mass, you have to travel the speed of light.
Yeah.
So we already have a galactic speed limit.
Or you would. Well,
So
you would have to encase the mass in something so resistant
correct,
that the speed of light wouldn't affect it.
but you're still traveling through the universe. So my biggest prescription, and that I look at it, is you're still traveling through the universe. So even though you might shorten the time,
Mm.
there's still a time of distance you must travel. And with that, even if you create a wormhole, when you get in that part of the wormhole and when you leave that part of the wormhole, it's not the same. It's relative. So the distance that you travel and how you travel here means if the aliens were to leave right now and appear right before us, okay, and travel through that wormhole, their home planet could have been destroyed. Their whole species could have been wiped out
Thundercats.
because that distance in which they traveled doesn't guarantee they have a home to go back to. So the whole thing of going, they might be the last of the race, not realizing what had happened. Asteroid could have hit their planet and they're wiped out.
Yeah.
Because time passes differently when they're in the wormhole where their other alien friends at home, just as we would if we were to travel back through that wormhole trying to get to their planet.
I
So what happens to us going there is reversed to them. The same thing. The only difference would be if they're interdimensional. They're not bound by physical travel as we
yes.
do.
Yeah.
So if they can warp through a different dimension and come to our dimension, they're not traveling through time and space. It's not a machine that they're going through.
Or maybe it
It's
is.
not an actual machine because you need a machine to protect yourself through the travel. But let's say they're fifth dimensional beings.
Okay.
Will they need something physical to travel through? Would they be made of matter? They wouldn't have that limitation. And if they're not made by matter, their consciousness,
They'd be
they could
like
travel the speed of light.
they'd be like astral beings.
Projection.
Like a ghost, yeah. If you were because you wouldn't. Once you go past the fourth dimension, you're kind of not mass anymore.
Would you have matter? Would you be constructed of matter?
Yes, but not on a level that we would understand it. It would be more
Correct.
energy
But if you're constructed by matter, you are limited by the laws of matter.
True. Okay, I'll give you that.
So are you really constructed by matter then? Or would it be an antimatter?
Both.
Oh, so we don't know. We're third dimensional beings. We're in this universe. We have the limits of
speculate about the fifth dimension
we can only speculate. So
we can't handle the fourth. I forget what time and day it is all the goddamn time. Yeah.
And the fourth dimension, we're assuming it's time, which I don't think it is. We categorize it as time, but I don't think the fourth dimension is time, because I think time is part of the third dimension.
Gotcha.
I think it's skewed.
Okay, the movie and then later the show Alien Nation, I think kind of hit. If you believe in the alien ant farm, ancient aliens theory, or if you believe in religion, we are still created to be slaves. It's only the evolution theory, which is why lately everybody is against that lately, that we don't have a doctrine of a higher power dictating what we do, where evolution evolves due to stimuli from the environment and limitations and bonuses of the environment. So certain stories exist with humans for a reason over time and millennia, and I think that I don't think we were brought here or made here. I don't think we were. I mean, that was happening anyway, but I think it was accelerated by an outside force, and I think they looked just like us because the best thing from all religion is we're made in God's image. Well, then that means God's a human from somewhere else.
Well, we're a copy of what we perceived it to be. So look at it this way. You took all religions, and it just the simple of it. Any type of deity that you call God has certain characteristics, certain traits. But it's more indicative of a fourth or fifth dimensional being than of something that's materialistic in our universe. Because think of it this way. If a God lived in our universe, was within our universe, he cannot be all powerful and he cannot be all knowing because he's stuck within the limits of the universe. But if you're fourth dimension or fifth dimension, whatever dimensions out of it, you're not bounded by the limitations of our universe. Again, going back to that question of matter. So if you're a true God, means you're not limited by the laws of our universe as matter and so forth on it. So you could travel within the whole universe because like a fourth or fifth dimensional being, that dimension, you would see past it. Like if you're four dimensions, literally you would be able to see through walls. You would see other things that you wouldn't be able to see now that we do because we're limited. Fifth dimension is that you see another different layer that it becomes third person, 5-person, 6-person, omnipotent. You get to see the whole play from,
You would start to see, the way that they describe Dr. Manhattan seeing time. How everything is happening all at once in the past, the present, and the future for him because he's not bound anymore by the normal having to live in the present while simultaneously being reminded about the past and planning for the future. It's all together. It's all one. They did it.
It's time.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, like to say what Dr. Manhattan is, it's like taking a roll of film.
Excuse me.
And you can see the whole roll of film from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie.
All at once.
all at
all
once,
at once. Just,
all at once, because he's not in the movie. He's not
sometimes he
bound
is.
if he chooses to be.
Yeah.
So he can pop into whatever frame he wants to pop into in that movie. But he can see the whole movie. He can unravel it. He can shorten it down. He can look it up, and he can take his time when looking at it. But when you're in that movie, when you're in that single frame in that cellophane movie, you're in a portion of time and space. But the whole movie is still there as one piece until you cut it up and slice it and section it out and cut the movie longer or edit it. Take that piece, put it over here, put that piece over here, tape it back together, and so forth.
Yeah.
So Dr. Mahan can kind of see it all. So if you look at it, when you're talking about any type of God, any type of thing like that, they would have to be literally dimensional entities. They couldn't be from our universe. They couldn't be from the next galaxy over, because you would have to be limited to travel the galaxy in order to do effectively, like Anunnaki or whatever. They would have to be. They come in dimensional door. They come into our presence to do what they do, and they disappear into the ether. They disappear into where they come from. Because if they have to come in a spaceship, guess what? Means those are going to die. They're limited for it. It's a generational spaceship. They would have to come in. They're bound by the laws of the universe in question of traveling here. So that already pulls. There's a limitation. They have to abide by the light speed, the speed of light. So that already tells me they're limited. So they can't be gods. They're just other entities in the universe.
That's what I'm saying. Where I think it's probably more like Traveler or Star Trek, where we're all over the place, or Doctor Who, or we're like roaches, or Battlestar Galactica. Life here started out there. Yeah, that's a terrible Wolverine impersonation, but there you go. Life. He's a lot more tough. He was a cowboy.
It's all interesting.
But yeah, the slave thing, because religion sets up as you're here to do God's bidding, and you look just like him. And the Anunnaki, we can't. It's basically like, if you've ever read L. Ron Hubbard's Battlefield Earth, we need gold, but it's right next to this uranium that it explodes our breathe gas. I know, let's get the man people guys. We'll torture them until they mine for us. Hey, this is working. So we've always been slaves. We've been slaves for so long, we even enslave each other. So whether it's religion or science fiction, we're still slaves.
I always found that was funny in Battlefield Earth, that they came to Earth for gold.
Yeah.
Where if they would have mined an asteroid that's more dense, they could have found all the gold that they want. They never had to come to Earth.
Battlefield Earth is the most fun comic book that's 1,000 pages ever, because it was really cool when I was 19, but then thinking about the dynamics of the whole story and then going back and watching a video, it's like, this is kind of dumb. This is another one of these guys that are like, humans are the best. Not always, dude. We're actually quite greedy, full of avarice. We're very fragile. We don't have any natural weapons besides our brain. I mean, our skin is, oh my God, I used to be able to, like, I'm at that point now where, like, why am I bleeding? What happened?
How did that happen? Yeah.
Because once you hit, 48, 49, 50, you lose that underlying fat that protects your skin. And
it's more transparent.
Yeah, it's really fucking annoying. I mean, it's good that, hey, I look more tone. Oh, ow. Why am I? Oh, okay. I'm running out of Band-Aids.
Science is fun.
No, it's not. Same thing with the teeth. I brush my teeth 3 times a day, all the time. So, how are my teeth? Oh, your teeth are fine. Massive bone loss. Well, that's terrifyingly scary. What the fuck is that? Massive bone loss.
Your body is eating itself.
Yeah. From being in the medical field, I knew what he was talking about, but wanted to play dumb because all he wanted to talk about is, this is how much I'm going to charge you for a periodontal cleaning. I'm going to take the Let Nature Take Its Course Delete package. Thank you very much. Luckily, I love things like grits and oatmeal and soup, so this is fine.
You do what you can.
Yeah.
You do what you can.
But with time travel, every goddamn psychic I've ever talked to, you're such an old soul. You're such an old soul. So it's like, pick what time period you want to go back to in history. Oh, can I pick 50? 55? Can I? How many can? How many punches do I get on the card?
You know what? You know what? I think about what people refer to time old. You're an old soul. Is that you remember the past where other people choose to forget it? Because if you look at just society, things that people said, people like to gaslight themselves, and people like to forget the past. So something that happened 10 years ago, people are like, "What?
I don't remember.
They don't remember that happened or something on it." You remember the past, so it doesn't affect your future. But some people love to forget the past. They gaslight themselves, or they don't want to acknowledge it. So I always find it that's kind of funny where people say that, because the person saying that means they don't acknowledge their past to affect their future. Where you're acknowledging the past so you won't run into the same problem in the future. So there's two different people there. Some people run headstrong into the future regardless of what they do or have done. Those are the people, what's in the past is in the past. Well, if you never learned what's in the past, you're going to do it again. Oh, that didn't matter. Oh, he killed 10 people, but he's reformed. Yeah, but he killed 10 people there, so you got to keep an eye on him.
And then he ate 3 people in prison. You're not keeping up with the times.
You're not keeping up. So what happens is you get some people like that don't recognize or see the patterns or go through it. Where an old soul goes, I remember back then, because I see it happening again right now, and I know what's going to happen. You see the crash before it happens. You go, hey, if that person doesn't slow down, they're gonna run that stop sign. Oh no, they're fine. Hey, crash.
Wisdom comes at the very high cost of failure. It really does.
Yep.
And that's why I'm amazed at meeting I've met a bunch of people that now are in their early 20s that I'm actually impressed with. That it's like you actually have your shit together and you're wise. The rest of your group is fucking just giant babies. They have no concept of what the hell is going on in the world. They just get on the internet and start yelling. And
yeah,
I can also be one of those people. I'm not going to lie. But eventually you take the time to realize, oh, crap, I'm right and this thing is messed up. Or, oh, I'm wrong. And your average adult is going to go, all right, I was wrong. I backed the wrong horse. I was misled. I made the wrong decision. Whatever the scenario. But it's wisdom that brings that forward. Intelligence is really awesome. But wisdom, wisdom is worth more pound for pound, man. Pound for pound.
But the wisdom where you're going for is people acknowledging their mistake and learning from it. To acknowledge your mistake is you said, okay, I screwed up. I'm sorry. But if you didn't learn from it, all you're doing is placating. Oh, I wrecked your car. I'm sorry. But you didn't realize what you'd done to wreck the car. You didn't take enough driving lessons. You don't know how to control the car. That's why you wrecked it. You got to fix this first before you go on to the next thing. Some people, it's like, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't ask for permission, that means you're not assuming the responsibility of happening when it goes sideways.
Yeah.
When you ask permission, you say, can I drive the car, Dad? And your dad's going to say, no, you're not good enough to it. You don't have enough practice. Where if you went and stole the car and took it and crashed it, oh, I'm sorry. That's what a lot of people do. They go ahead and do it without asking for it, asking permission, and they wind up crashing the car. Or if you ask them permission, they will say, no, you're not ready for it. You need more time. You need to learn it. We take a few more driving lessons until you're ready. So that's the biggest difference. And that's why you get a lot of people don't learn from the past. And that's why they, like with you, that's why you're an old soul. Because just in your conversations, remember when you're talking to the guy at work and talking about movies?
Yeah.
And you're showing him old movies? You're taking the past and what happened in the past and you're reflecting it to his future. So you're showing that things are cyclical. What happened once will happen again.
Yeah.
And see this movie, how it handles that topic? We'll look at it here. And he's going, wow, now he's reflecting on the past to make a decision in the future. So some of those old movies are going to kick in. It's like us now. we kick into old movies that we saw years ago, saying, "Hey, at that time I might have not lived it, but now I've
Yeah.
lived it." So like Idiocracy, back then we were laughing, going, "Oh, that never happened." Now we're going,
Now it's like, oh my
"Damn, it
God,
happened."
oh
God.
no.
Yep. I know. But we saw it back then and took notice, where a lot of people didn't take notice.
No.
That's the difference. We said, it's a possibility it could happen. I could see it happening. We're laughing if it happened, but then we're looking at, oh my God, it happened.
It's our the weirdest connection is time with society. Going back to, and we talked about it on other podcasts. I know I've said this
Oh,
before,
yeah.
but I'll say it again and again. I'm sorry. We're old men now.
Mhm.
It's not our job to keep up with. I'm at that point where, my father would walk in the room. Who is that? Who are these guys? This music's terrible. And it didn't make any sense when I was in my late teens, but now it makes perfect sense now that I'm 53, because after a while you just don't give a crap. You don't keep up on, you like these actors and you like this, and now and then you watch a good movie and you're like, oh, all right, I'll add that guy to the list of actors that I think are worth a damn. But for the most part, not everybody likes anchovies, and not everybody wants to eat just cheese pizza. Those are your extremes. I love anchovies.
We're becoming the sages.
Cheese is fine.
We're becoming the sages because, okay, it's like Gen X. A lot of people give gripe to other generations, but not too much with Gen X too much, because you know why? We're the last that lived in both type of universes. We were in the analog, we were also in the digital. We got to see both ends of the spectrum. We were going into a new era, but we were still in the old. So we have references to both, where people of this era doesn't have reference to analog, and people in analog don't have references to the new digital, the new cyber. So we're one of the few generations that saw the pivot, that we lived through the pivot. So we have both of worlds. We can understand both. We understand we can live without our phones. Pagers,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I can.
Yeah. So but newer people
Pager.
cannot live.
Say it with me, kids. Pager. How much weed do you want, and where do you want to meet me? That's what this was for. You have a bank of payphones. That's the only way they know it, is through the movie The Hangover. You hit on a major correct point of the reality of the present, because we're the last of the feral children, the last of the latchkey kids, the last of the children that were just left to just go ahead, go hang out with that creepy old man. You can go in his basement, it's fine.
And when we're gone, it's going to be different. It's going to be so different, because the way we see the world, the way we experience the world, it's a lot different than what the kids now that are coming up experience and see the world. So what happens is, we're the sages, so we have to pass on what we know, what we do, what we have, so at least somebody will remember. Because like they say, you're an old spirit. It's because you remember the past to affect the future. And I'll give you perfect examples. People quote movies,
I'm about to get on
old movies all the time.
Go.
No.
Go.
People quote old movies. Why do they quote old movies? Because it meant something. That saying meant something at that particular time, and people resonated with it, and they said it.
Yep. You're right.
They took something with it. Simple.
Quoting movies is from as long ago as quoting plays and quoting songs. We're animals. We repeat things. We repeat things we like. We are the Gen X, now that the boomers are unfortunately fading out. We're the last generation that can explain the difference between Vietnam and World War II. And speaking of boomers, there's Ed. He's playing Fallout. Ed's one of the few people that was born in the 40s that can still play video games and Dungeons and Dragons and understand. That's why it's like, dude, teach me everything about ceramics. I want to get him on the. Not only is Ed going to be in our pickup game, he doesn't know it yet, but I've told him about it, and he's already excited. But, you know, he was in the Navy in Vietnam. There's a lot to Vietnam was the first real war that we didn't support our own troops 100%. And that drastically changed the beatniks, then the hippies, then the punks, then the metal kids, but all the while the progressives, the mods, the preppies, the jocks, these were groups that were. It was interesting because in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s, it was kind of about race. But during the 80s, it was more about social status. It didn't matter if you were black or white. It was more economic, or it was more social, or it was more on comeliness, you know, how you, if you're, you know, one of the beautiful ones can get in anywhere. There's some of us that have to stand behind the velvet ropes, you know. So that was, it was the interesting thing where, I hate to say it, but we kind of did peak in the 90s because you kind of got beyond a lot of the social stuff that would be considered racist was just made fun of in the 90s. And it was oh my God, I don't want to talk to my grandfather right now. Dude, stop with that. Just stop. Just don't. No more. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear your rhetoric. So it was kind of different. But on the aspect of, it's up to us now to tell the kids about World War II that we learned about through our grandparents because of the time disconnect. My grandfathers told me about World War II. My dad was in Vietnam. And then later, Drew's father, my older sister's husband, they're still married to this day, Johnny Horn, Drew's father, he told me what it was like. It was his job in Korea to position a searchlight on these mountains. And if he saw North Koreans, he called in a mortar strike. That was his job. So he had this big truck with a big, like a bat signal. Only it was the signal of death, not the signal of justice.
But you realize that we're heading for another shift that's coming up?
Yep.
Within this next 10 years, there's going to be another big shift.
Oh, yeah.
And people don't realize a big, huge shift that I see. Because it's already starting to happen little by little, but people don't recognize it yet. And I'll go to explain it, but I don't want to get political with it.
Yes, you do. You always find a way to get political.
Well, no, I dabble a little bit into it, but I don't go hardcore, because I could go really hardcore into it, but I don't.
Okay, let me put sorry, Guy, let me put it this way. You like to splash in the political pool. You don't do cannonballs like that.
I don't do cannonballs, because I could do cannonballs, but what's the point? I splash it in just to keep it a little reality, because it just puts it into context.
Okay. Don't lie. Fucking A. Yes, you do.
Everything that we're doing right now is going to change, and how we view and do it is going to change with it.
Yeah.
In 10 years' time, and this is the only part of the political, and I'm not going to offend anybody, but like woke ideology, everything that we're facing right now, everything that people's talking about in the media, it's going to go bye-bye. Everything's going to get, whether what side you're on, this whole discussion's going to go poof. And something else is going to take its place. Yeah. So all that we were arguing about, everything that happened before, all that, it's going to go by, because people are going to turn away from it and go, we're going to go on to something else.
Damn it.
And you're going to see it.
For the record, Rob, Guy started this, not me. You're kind of right in a sense, because 2025 is kind of mirroring the McKinley presidency, where he kind of comes in and he's second. I told you I did not want to turn this into a political.
Well, don't. I'm just saying how people.
Not. Go ahead, please.
But I'm saying, you see how it mirrors how history does it.
History constantly repeats itself. Okay,
what,
love
there we
or
go.
hate Trump, I'm in the middle. I
Okay.
really don't care. But
I don't care.
it's Grover Cleveland only. Cleveland was honest, and that's kind of how he got.
Now you're going political. Now you're going into political. All I'm saying is you're going to
1893.
see it.
Yes.
Correct. But all you're going to see is a
2025.
shift in how
No, please no.
you're going to see it. You're going to see a big shift in culture and how everybody responds to it and the difference of it. So the young kids that you're talking to, gay, this is my point. The young kids that you're talking to, gay, the people you're talking about the movies now,
Yeah.
when they grow older, they're going to make more decisions revolving of what they learn now and how they learn it today.
Okay, I will.
So
give
it's a
you,
cumulative.
Okay, I'll give you that. I will give you that there is. I know I've said this. Society is a needle, and it constantly gets pushed one way or another. You can't have all of it one way or another. It constantly has to, and that's humans. So you've got a lot of pre-20s and early 20s that are absolutely fed up with the way things are, and they're kind of reverting back to the 1980s and the 90s is very popular right now, as was the 50s and the 60s when we were growing up in the 80s and the 90s. Oh,
Every 30 years.
Excuse me. Anchovies. My lovely neighbor across the street got pizza with anchovies, and we always share pizza every time we get pizza. I love anchovies, but now I'm old and they don't like me back. Oh, that was wonderful and terrible all at the same time. Glorious and horrible all at once. So, I think, America is still an experiment in the making. We've never come this far. This is actually still working. I have a feeling it works on the homogeneous, go, giant superorganism, but that also has a needle in itself, where sometimes we just can't wait to wake up every morning and be American, and other times we're ashamed to, even talk about it. So,
Well, you know why I say that, Bill? And you brought it to my attention without even realizing it. And most everybody brings it to their attention. As you get older, your perceptions and things change.
yeah.
No matter what spectrum you're on, let me say that again because it sounds vaguely important. Your perceptions and ideology change because what you used to the teeny boppers that you loved back as a kid don't mean nothing now to you now.
Well, they're old women
Some of the
now.
music you listen to, yeah, they're old women. So what happens is those people now are going to grow older. As they grow older, then the people behind them are going to come from it. So everything has its time and place, regardless, good, bad, or indifferent. So everything that's happening now, 10 years from now, nothing. People are going to look back and go, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they were doing this. I can't. That's what's going to happen. So the kids that you're talking now, and we're talking about Gen Alpha.
Is that what
They're going to get older.
are now?
They're going to grow into it. So depending on what's happening now, it depends what's going to happen in the future. And some predicting certain things are happening. Well, those have to happen because they're dealing with the millennials in this generation. But the generation after that is going to change that.
Yeah.
Because they're not the same generation. These newer kids are not. They're going to either look at what happened to their parents or this generation and go, I don't want that. I'm going to do it my way.
Hold on.
And they're going to do it their way.
Sideways ADD thought for the moment. Have you plugged your phone in before we get to the
Yeah, it's already been plugged.
Okay, just checking.
It's been plugged in from the get-go.
Good. Stop doing that. I think you're right, and I think that if you're lucky enough to have parents that teach you everything, you kind of take it for granted until you become adult, and then you go back and you learn everything you can as fast as you can of what they've already told you. But if you don't have someone that's a guiding influence, parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, whatever, you're going to search for that in life. And you'll eventually find it, usually through work, usually through a group, now a lot easier with the internet. And I see that your prediction is coming true because Yeah, YouTube is great to watch people fighting, whether it's MMA, which I'm a huge fan of, or UFC, or people in parking lots. But the other half of that is the fantastic documentaries by all of the YouTube personalities that are out there. Not just YouTube, but Rumble and Locals, and as you tick all that. It's not just Roll for Sandwich and all of the other fun things that are out there. Viva La Dirt League. There's also education besides entertainment. That's what we'd like to do here is education and entertainment as well. Like and subscribe. But as much as I worry about the future, because people were worried back in the 1750s and the 1810s, and there's always been morons, and they've always outnumbered smart people. Always a case for concern.
Yeah. But what happens is, what you can know that certain things never change, and certain human nature is human nature, and people, how can I say, are very robotic in their ways. They do things over and over again. They're very repetitive. They very seldom stray.
You're being kind.
And because of that, I'm being real kind.
You're being
but they
kind
don't,
because I would
they don't
say
deviate much.
Your average person, everybody, your average mom, dad, brother, sister, cousin, uncle, humans are addicts, and our biggest addiction ever is comfort. We're absolutely addicted to comfort on a global wide. There are those that have the comfy chair and those that are sitting in a wooden stool. And there you go. That's what drives you. So if you're not at the level of comfort that you want to be at, you're going to try to attain it. And I think that is the biggest drive of humanity. I'm not happy with my surroundings. Oh, even better. I'm tired of my spouse complaining about our surroundings. So it's going to motivate you to improve the level of comfort, improve the level of addiction. And if you're in a power relationship where he or she is going to complain incessantly, even after I fixed all the problems, well, here's a list of new ones, then you're constantly chasing the level of comfort for the other person. That's soul crushingly exhausting, but that's human nature. I want this from you, and that's my comfort, but you don't want to give it to me because that's giving me what I want. So you're going to set the bar higher and higher and higher in this Sisyphean, Herculean task list to where I never get the prize. I'm just satisfying levels of comfort that you're not necessarily, well, we're getting into relationships now, into fulfilling. You're just holding that power over me because, well, you got no other suitors and nothing else to do, so this is what we do on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. And that's why you can predict it. I mean, that's why people can predict the future, is because humans are relatively shallow.
Simple.
And
simple.
They're simple. They're simple because they always going to go back to certain characteristics. Be a man or a woman, everyone's got feelings, everyone's got emotions, everyone got it. Just some do it more than others. So regardless of what everybody says on it, and what I look at, and again, depending on what you feel in the comments and so forth, people prescribe certain things, but necessarily don't try to affect what the root cause of it is. You do this, do that, so they don't do this. Oh, he doesn't call you, wait 3 days. They do it a lot in dating, but they never get down to the fact of what the problem is in dating. They never go down to the root of it because they don't want to.
Yeah.
So when you see it, when this generation comes through, they're going to look at what the previous generation we did it to our generation. We did it to the boomers. We went, well, that was stupid. We don't want to do that. But then in our stupidity, we did other things at Gen X is not. They're as fault as much as any other generation for the stupidness that we've done. But we're just as good. We're just as fault as all the creativeness that we've done.
Yeah.
Well, it's just that we kept on to both sides' advantage, the analog and so forth. We kept into that advantage because we were latchkey kids. We were there. We had both parents. Majority had both parents in the home. New kids don't even have that luck. The luxuries we have, the new generations don't have.
True.
They have other luxuries that we never had. Like, when we were kids, we never had a cell phone. We couldn't even dream of having a cell phone.
It was like
You couldn't even dream
that
of
was like
having
a
a remote
toy
control
we
car.
pretended to have.
Wow, that was, but now the kids have it.
I'm
Kids
always
at Gen
amazed when
Alpha.
I go to a mass job interview and I'm the only one looking at everybody else. They're all on their phones.
Mhm.
It's like, why
But
would you
then,
get on your phone in a job interview? You're here to be interviewed. You're not here to, oh my God, I could barely park. Jesus.
but you realize that when you talk to people, and this is the funny thing is, and I talk to a lot of people, and you talk to a lot of people, is that you find out that they're more isolationists now than ever
Yeah.
because of their cell phones, and they're more, how could I say, individualistic or selfish because they revolve around them and their own narrative. Like before, we would talk to each other. We would go out. I would go visit you at your house. You would come over to my house. We would go out and do something, have an adventure.
Yeah.
Modern day doesn't do that. They lack that. Finding it on your own, doing it on your own, making your mistakes, falling off that bike, getting hit with a baseball bat. You know,
Sliding
stuff
under
that we
that
did
truck on your skateboard.
on your skateboard. Yeah,
Ow.
doing that ollie and hurting you. Where
Ooh.
they don't have that reference
Fall on
anymore.
that bar and crush your testicles.
Getting on that wheel and spinning it like crazy and see if you can hold on. You know,
What are you doing?
that spinning wheel and the
No, I
but
don't want to
you
think
don't
about
have
that.
that.
Thank you.
They don't have that. So their point of reference is different. They know cell phones better than we do because that's what they grew up with. But because they grew up with cell phones, they don't know nothing else. Like cursive, they don't know nothing else. So when you look at them, it's like they're kind of a disadvantage because
Hey, Sam.
they only know technology, but they don't know how to talk to people. They can't
No.
read people. They can't read people. The nuances when talking to people, you can go, okay. You
Yeah.
can't tell when a person's lying to you or bullshitting, or they don't have that the point of reference anymore.
Hold on. You're onto something. We're into the realms of psychology. I wish I had a graphic for that. Um, I find it interesting that 45 and below needs a distraction even when they're hanging out. Whether it's the phone or the television. For example, yesterday I went to a coworker's house and we were hanging out with another guy that he was friends with that doesn't work where we work. And let's turn on the television. No, dude, we're talking. That's like a lost art now. We're just talking. Don't you want to have the television on? And both me and the other guy that was older than me were like, no. It's nice to just listen to the rain and have a conversation and just talk. And at first he
Speaks
was
to the
upset.
change in community.
Go ahead. Sorry.
The definition of community has changed with every true generational gap. So when you talk about the 30-year generational gap,
Yep.
you have to remember that community has changed over the millennia. Community used to be who lived within this 400 acres that we could see from the base of this valley.
From dawn till
This was our
dusk.
community. These were the people that I know. These are the people that I could speak with. And I speak with them in a very particular fashion and in a very particular style. We follow very rigid rules. Even today,
Yeah.
within your community, you follow very specific and rigid rules. So in those days, if you went from your community, if someone left your community to visit the nearest community over, you had to now go through and you went through a different process. You now learned what this new rule was for the community. So as what was deemed the community grew, you went from a small village, then you became a group of villages within a region, then you became
Wait. Let's
a country. But this is how community has changed over time. It's the ability to communicate changes your community, changes that perception of what your community is. So what we had, you speak about when we were younger, the community that we had was quite frankly, you started out with the community that was the kids that lived on your block. The kids that you knew from school were a wider portion of that, or a wider opportunity for community. But the kids that lived 4 blocks the other side of the school, they were not a part of your community, the same as the kids that lived on the 3 blocks, the 3 streets that you hung out.
You may get
That
to
was
know
your
them in
community.
summer school, but they don't go to your school. They go to a different school. Now you're like, oh my God,
But as you go
cool
along,
kids are at another school? This is awesome.
yeah. So as we grow, as we age, and we begin to learn new community, my father was born in the 1930s, 1934. So he grew up through the Depression. He grew up through the recovery. He grew up through World War II. His community started out on his street in San Francisco. And as he grew, his community enlarged because he went to University of California, San Francisco. He joined the military. Now his community has increased considerably, but it was still limited by your capacity for communication. So communication was a letter, then a phone call and a letter. Or when he was in the military, he also had the capacity to communicate via radio. So they had those opportunities. Now we're looking at children. We're looking at these folks that are latched onto their phones. But what you have to think about is that when they are on this device, their community exists within here. So they no longer have a geographic community that they are living in. They are now within an electronic community. So there's millions upon millions, billions of people on this planet. And there's hundreds of millions, if not at least a billion, who have access to the digital frontier.
Yeah.
However, most of these folks, the people that you see on the phone, the people that are sitting there, they're in a restaurant and they may be there with 3 people who are a part of their community electronically. And they're communicating with those 3 through that. But because it's a normal fashion, they're also communicating with the 20 or 25 other people that they consider to be part of their community. That are geographically separated. But now they can, real time, they can bring up, just as we're doing here with this medium,
Geeks
they're
unite!
making contact.
Yeah.
They're able to communicate with each other. So my friend who is in Paris and my other friend who is in Los Angeles and my other friend, plus my 2 friends that are sitting here with me, we are now all communicating through this electronic media, and we're capable of doing so in real time, just like they're sitting.
Yeah.
So that's where the difference comes into play, but it's still the baseline for that whole thing is the community itself has changed. What constitutes the community and the communication. So as that changes, you show the pager. Pager was a way for our communities to expand. I was a first responder. Pager made me somebody who could communicate now with all of my fellow first responders throughout the state of Arizona. But it was not the same level. If we'd have had smartphones at the time, that would have changed things considerably. Prior to that, it was the fact that you had a phone at the house, and then you had an understanding of communication. And so as kids, we could ride our bikes, you could yell out front of your buddy's house and say, hey, or knock on the door, hey, can you come out? Can we go and hang out? Boom. And you always had,
or whatever.
You always had a couple of dimes and nickels and quarters in your pocket because you're going to have to use the phone to communicate with whatever your control was at the time. So that's how this variation goes. That's why from the beginning, you went as far as you could on your communication. What was your communication? Now, the community has expanded, but the number within the community is still going to be very, very small. You look at people's Facebook accounts and they have 200, 300, 400, 500 friends through social media. But when you sit and ask somebody about that, they're going to be able to tell you, well, yeah, I've got these, and they'll name off 15, 20 people.
Yeah, and they're like, I
These
don't
are the
really
people
use
that pay attention.
Facebook. And they talk to a much larger group in reality, not on the digital platform.
Yeah,
But
and go back to what Rob said. He
Yeah.
made a big point with that. That some people in technology really don't know other people on the technology.
True.
But that has become the new reality. So in some ways, that is the evolution that is happening with the human mind. If I speak to my grandchildren today, they can conceptualize certain aspects and ideas of that far-flung world that I would not have conceptualized at their age. And today, I don't hold that concept the same way that they do.
Mm.
So to me, there are limitations. There were limitations of being able to get there or to reach out to someone or be able to make that connection. Where today, my grandchildren don't think about those limitations. The limitations that come into play are more of the network, the internet landscape. What does the electronic frontier look like between here and there? That's the new distance measure of community.
You made up a good point, Rob,
I would
because
agree.
there's a problem with it because we're old school and we talk people face to face. So we good at talking to people right in the living the now. We can live without our phones relatively peacefully because we can overcome it because we lived without them before. What modern kids now with their phones, unfortunately, is that like TikTok brain. You get snippets of people's lives, but you don't get the full picture. And they're making decisions on what they perceive to be what's the whole story when it's not. So it's kind of skewed because anybody like on their phone, like influencers, can show a life that they're supposedly living, but it turns out to be a facade.
Mm.
So sometimes what happens, even on the phone, even when you talk to other people and stuff, filters, whatever you want to do, filters, editing equipment and so forth, it could be AI. It may not be an actual person that you're talking to the other side.
Yeah.
It's slightly skewed. So what happens is there's a disconnect there. When you talk to a person, you're talking to that person and you're reacting to each other in live time with all physical motions and everything. But when you're talking on the computer, most people have acquaintances, but like you were saying, Rob, they can name 15 friends, true friends, because they know their birthdays, they know who their family members are, they met in real life. But everything else on Facebook, Instagram, are all acquaintances that they met online, but they know nothing truly about them. They know their name, they play this game and stuff,
Met him at
but
a
they really have no
party, met
part in
him
their
at
life.
work,
They have nothing.
Well, the other thing to think about is that their format of the first electronic format of communication became the telegraph. And there was a limited number of people in the world who understood the telegraph. Now, as time went along, we progressed from the telegraph to shortwave radio to longwave radio functionality. For you to get a license to this day as a ham operator, there are still certain requirements to understand telegraphy. So you have to understand Morse code to a certain extent. It won't preclude you from getting the licenses, but the reason why I bring that up is because what became the replacement for that, you had letters, which could take the place of telegrams, depending upon the circumstance. The telephone took the place of the telegram. For the kids today, we started it actually with pagers and the quick codes. Created a quick code that was something that was very easy. Somebody knew to page you this series of numbers. Now you knew I need to communicate, I need to do whatever the case. That has progressed. Email became the replacement for a good portion of that as we had the cell phone and text message. So now you have the texting, but the texting has developed its own shorthand, which has taken the place of the telegraph, Morse code. A similar concept, similar idea. I can create a short, brief message, but the other part of that is that where that differs from Morse code was basically a representation of a letter. Then you had to understand how to break those out, and
Dot
it was
dash.
intended for short form, right? For short form words. I can build up the words into a message. You wouldn't send 4 paragraphs by Morse code, but you would send 3 or 4 lines. Well, with a text, and the way that the text messaging vernacular is growing and changing, evolving, emotion comes through in that, which could never be
Emoji.
done in that earlier platform. It could be presented in a letter, but you had to be very, very articulate in writing and also reading to pull that kind of emotion from a letter. Now that they have come up with certain aspects and they've added certain shorthand, short form communication components, they are able to produce extraordinary amounts of emotional information, detail in the short form communication. And that's where the emojis have really taken off. So many of these other components. So it's a rather intriguing way to look at it. If you took a linguist, a psychologist, and they sat down and they really broke this down, what I think they would find is that this form of communication, this language as it's being developed, is growing so much faster than any other language has grown in the past. Our own language has changed over 200 and or almost 300 years in the United States. So we've got the English language, thousands of years. The Chinese language is even older than that. So we've looked at the growth of the languages, the old Romance languages that we all should have taken in school, but when we were in school, it was much less of a requirement. My father took Greek and Latin in grade school and high school because that was an expectation. My grandfather could speak Greek and Latin, and I believe he could speak Spanish because that was what you learned while you were in school. That was a part of it. When I went to school, I had the option. I could take Spanish, I could take Latin, I could take French. I said, no thanks, I'd rather do something else.
Klingon.
So as you go along, these things have changed. So now we've got a new language, and it's going to continue to morph to a point where it will become a dialect of English, and there will be a dialect of French, and there will be a dialect of, and it may actually become or create itself, or I should say create itself, it will evolve itself into a closer universal language for those electronically connected generations as they go forward, because now you're losing the entire word. You're producing the idea, the concept, conceptual point behind the word that was created to represent it. So we're getting back to an older style of communication. We're getting back to an older style of language. We're moving away from the Arabic letter form to more of a pictographic form eventually. And there will be a hybrid combination that will come to pass. So then you'll see something that say, oh, that's reminiscent of Chinese characters, the Korean, the morphology of the Korean character, the ancient runic and the Cyrillic languages as they were written, because each one was a representation of a physical entity or a physical idea or a concept, as opposed to being written out where you now had to learn the word that reflected it.
Rob, you are a genius. Because you just pointed out something that's happening right now that we overlooked, and that's binary code, computer talk, programming. When you look at software programming code, it is universal, used through all languages, all cultures, all places on Earth. It's the same code when you're writing a program. So that one right there, what you're talking about, Rob, is already in practice right now. Because regardless of any programmer, you have to communicate with that code if you're writing program. So coding is a universal language right now. You hit the nail on the head, Rob, by saying that, because that is more than English. It's a uniting language. Because in order to make this software or program work, you gotta know coding. You gotta know that language, computer speak, so to speak. So people are bonding over that, regardless of race, religion, type, or whatever, because that is a code way of speaking to each other, to communicate with each other, to program computers and stuff there. It has no geographic boundary. It has no point of origin. So just like what you're saying with the emojis, this is going on to the next step, that communications may be formed in that sort of aspect, in that sort of realm, in that sort of reality.
That's why we're not seeing some of the older handwritten styles.
Yeah.
The cursive format, which has been used by most cultures in what I would consider to be modern. So I would say beyond the 7th, 8th century, most cultures use some form of cursive, a more eloquent handwritten style, something that could be pulled together as opposed to an individual hand printed component. But that has no place anymore because of this transition. So as the children are learning to utilize text messaging, there's no point in cursive in that format. They're not going to write out the entire word in and of itself anyway. They're using shorthand. So we're going a little bit back on that side. We're going to, here's a shorthand that builds this concept. This will then share with you the concept that I'm trying to get across without having to write out the entire statement. They'll still speak. They're not necessarily going to, you're not going to hear the kids on the street necessarily saying lol. They may say LOL, but they're not at this point ready to shorten the actual wording. But that will be how things are presented. So I would say probably the next 3 or 4 generations, we would not recognize the written word as it were, because it will have changed. It would be the equivalent of us trying to understand Old English or Proto-Celtic or Ogrim. Looking at that and being able to go, oh, I could not tell you. I understand runes, the 3 different futharks of the runes, to a point where I can look at them and I can say, I know what this one is, that one is. But if I was dropped into a place where, okay, everything is written in this, I'm lost. Because I couldn't put them together and say, this is Thorgrid. Thorgrid means this. Couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you what that word was. I couldn't even pronounce it in a meaningful way. But in communicating with somebody, eventually you would pick up, you could learn it. The kids that we are seeing today are developing this new progression. And what I think is going to happen is it's going to happen much faster. It took centuries to go from old to middle to new, modern English. It took a very long time. I don't think we're going to see that. I don't think we're going to be looking at a century before there is some significant change in how these items are presented. These 3 letters now mean automobile. These 4 characters now represent homestead. Whatever the case may be, that's where the change is going. And I would love to be able to see it, but I am also grateful that there's no way that I will, because that's going to be probably a seismic shift in cognitive thinking for my brain. I would have a difficult time in that because, again, as you had both spoken before, we are the last generation to span this broad step in society. The last generation that did that before was the generation that brought the boomers into the world, because they went from a world where there was the beginnings of locomotives, steam powered it, to the point of internal combustion, gas, diesel, and electric vehicles, and then airplanes and flight. They were able to absolutely shatter these things. And then taking it within that short span again, within 50 years, now you've gone from propeller aircraft that could fly no more than 150 miles per hour to jet aircraft that were able to go 500 miles, 600 miles an hour, and very quickly to break the sound barrier, that imagined point that could never be broken, that brick wall in the sky. So the next big leap came with the space race, but the generation that was brought up in that was less of a leap than it was from previous. The leap that we had to go through was from all the analog, what we knew to be these great new things that had come along, to these incredible leaps and bounds that took place into what could happen. The moves to digital media, to digital computing system, moved to integrated circuit system. And now we've got nanotechnologies that we're seeing. So the capacity to, rather than me have to hire a machinist and hire an engineer, hire a designer, I can now, with enough financial resource, I can purchase a piece of equipment. If I can conceptualize it, put it into a computer, I can print something out in carbon fiber or steel or any other myriad type of material to make what I want. And if it doesn't work, I go in, I can recreate it, manipulate it, build another one. It doesn't take me that period of time to do that work. Conceptualization and all of that come along. So we've had a similar leap to what had occurred a century ago.
Oh my God, it's true.
It's very true.
Think of it. The emoji is the modern day hieroglyphic now.
Oh, ouch! Yeah, it is, isn't it?
I would say it's more akin to the Asian characters.
Character system, yeah.
Kanji.
Because it's not necessarily a hieroglyph. It is a character that is designed with the intent to represent an idea. Okay. So I think the Chinese language has hundreds of thousands of characters, and there's no one who understands all of the Chinese characters, but a well-versed person in Chinese, I believe the idea is that they would know 40,000 individual characters that they could read and they could understand and they could go through it. But then they have the ability to look at other characters and say, well, these components match this and this is the idea. Yeah. I can figure it out. So, and it goes back to the older languages where each of the characters that were used weren't necessarily a letter representation. They represented as much a concept, and you stacked the concepts to create a bigger concept. Mm-hmm. We're moving back to that level. So it's going to be curious. It makes me kind of curious because it will cause some serious problems for AI. AI can understand certain aspects, but it has to be able to make certain leaps.
Yeah.
And the human mind can make these leaps. Human mind look and say, oh, that set of line looks to me like a butterfly. Bill, that looks like a butterfly. Bill could say, well, yeah, it does, but you know, it really looks more like a monarch butterfly. Yeah, you're right. So that becomes, and then guy comes along and says, we're going to call that the monarch butterfly. That's what that looks like. Mm-hmm. So And that becomes AI doesn't have the capacity to make that conceptual idea yet. And that's probably something that is extraordinarily far off because it requires a certain leap of faith, as it were. And the human mind can make these interesting leaps and look at things and go, oh, yes. AI can't look at a cloud, and I can't turn 4 separate AI systems on, have them look at a cloud, and the systems would be able to identify all of the possibilities that 10 children could say when they look at the same cloud.
Yeah, it's not set up like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when the children talk to each other, then it's going to be, well, I see a dragon. I see a puppy dog. How do you see a puppy dog? Well, look like this. Oh, yeah, that is. How did you see the dragon? Well, if you look over here, oh, I see the dragon. I see the puppy dog. So, it's the opening of the underdog. It's a bird.
Mm-hmm.
It's a plane. It's a bathtub. A bathtub?
Mm-hmm.
You said Monarch, so now I have the Venture Brothers in my head. And the hell is Speedy? Oh, you don't understand. Brock Sampson. Oh, yeah, Brock Sampson got a hold of him. It was over. Oh, God. Yeah, it's over. I love that cartoon.
I just hope there never comes a time where people get so much into technology that they forget to see the puppy dog, that they forget to see the dragon, that they just look up and go, oh, there's a cirrus, there's a cumulative cloud. You know what I mean?
There's
Because
going to be a point where that attribute will be placed on the younger generation by an older generation. Oh, you don't see these things.
Mm.
And the difference is they're conceptualizing, they're seeing it, they're relating it completely.
Yeah.
When Grandpa would talk to me about things, I learned how to try and see through his eyes. And he would point things out to me. He would express things or explain ideas. I would then internalize those, but they would get modified. I had then gone and turned and expressed those things to my sons. So I would give them, and I recognized it as I was doing it. I was giving them some of what Grandpa had given me. And I was giving them the rest was what I had internalized it to be.
Yeah.
Same concept, but the concept had changed slightly in the verbiage, how it was presented. I see my sons doing it with their children, grandchildren. And again, I can recognize there's a little bit of what Chris said. There's a bit more of what I had. Now there's what my son is conceptual.
Yeah.
How they increase. And that's, to get philosophical now, that's what I express as the true meaning of mortality. As a Mason, we've had a lot of discussions talking about immortality, and the concept and the esoteric behind it. One of the things that I have expressed to these brothers when we're studying, it's kind of interesting to watch the light go on. Tell them that true immortality is something that you will never know if your concept is immortality is that your name must be remembered perpetually. Because the truth of immortality is that everything that Grandpa told me, everything that my father shared with me, everything that my uncle shared with me, was in part their knowledge, but also in part knowledge of their previous generation and those generations all the way back to the very beginning. So in reality, truth of immortality is the fact that this person found this nugget of information, handed it to the next person. That person took that nugget, added to it, cleaned it up, handed it to the next person, on down through the generation, through the millennium, till it comes to us. And so that is the truth of immortality in my mind. So none of the past, none of the previous generations ever truly forgotten because of all that they've handed to us, all that they've given, all that they have taught us. all that they have shown us to do and not to do as we go through.
And a perfect example of that, what Rob said, is exactly what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
A viewer may see this a year from now, 5 years from now. We may be gone. And what we said right now may reflect to them. They come across it by accident or for whatever means, maintenance, and they go, wait a minute, this resonates.
Who are these
I
crusty
understand
old
it.
guys?
We're old, and we're just three old guys. But right here, basically, we'll hit somebody at some point, at some time, and they go, yeah, they're right. I never thought of it this way. I never went, oh, now it's something to think about. We added that part. And with what Rob said doesn't necessarily mean it's hereditary, because we do it with people we meet all the time. So the knowledge we impart is not only to our offspring, but it's to everybody else we come in contact with.
Yep.
So think of all the people that Rob trained as a blacksmith. Think of all the people I helped with cars and getting them going and stuff on it. All you help build. A little bit of knowledge to every little buddy as we meet, as we go on, and they come back to it. You come back for other people to help you during time. I do. So what happens? Those people, you carried a little bit of their legacy with you and a little bit of their mortality. It keeps going on and on. It's perpetual, self-perpetuating.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I'm responsible.
Thus endeth the sermon.
Thus ended the sermon. Thus ends the sermon.
True.
And there goes my light. There we go.
Right. Now, Brother Maynard, we shall consult the Book of Armaments.
Oh, Lord. Brother Maynard, the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch. I love that movie.
Yep.
Now
there are entire generations that have yet to learn the wisdom of great Typhon.
Yeah. It's got to be overwhelming to be young now.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just so much crap out there.
Yeah, I would say yes and no, because to Guy's point, he talked about the kind of the TikTok mind concept of the short snippet.
Mm-hmm.
So much of the information is being provided in smaller sections, smaller segments, so that it can be more rapidly consumed. So they're consuming a great deal of information.
Yeah.
They're consuming it in much shorter sequence, where we were given a text, and here's a textbook. We're going to study chapter 5 for the next 2 weeks. You guys are going to do these homework assignments on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You're going to turn in the homework on Tuesday, Thursday, and Monday. We're going to have a test on the final Friday.
Period.
But the kids now are reaching similar amounts of information, but it's more along the lines, here's a 15, 20-minute burst of this subject matter. Now we're going to move you into something else, and then we'll come back to, we'll give you the next inset of the first set, but again, it's a 15, 20-minute section. I'm going to feed it to you in shorter segments, and we're going to hit the highlights, and we're going to look for those things that draw you in. Because once they find those things that draw them in, that's where middle school, high school, college then starts grabbing the greater detail. That's also why they're removing some of the things that we thought of. You had mentioned home economics and shop class, some of these other things that they can't fit into necessarily that 15-minute dump. Give you a 15-minute dump for a lot of things. Can't give you a 15-minute dump on how to make traditional Navajo fry bread. There's too much involved. I need to get you physically. I can show you it. Here's a quick introduction, but you've got to have the physical connection to make it happen. I can't give you a 15-minute introduction to the rebuilding of a 727 torque light transmission. I can give you some brief detail on it. Here's something you can look at, but until I can put it in your hands, you're not going to know that if you don't have that snap ring right, you're going to cut your thumb and you're going to spend the next 4 hours at the emergency room while they stitch you up, and you learned a valuable lesson.
Yeah.
So that's where these things slip away. I can give you mathematics. I can give you English. I can give you literature. I can give you history. So the seven liberal arts and sciences, which is what is the focus today in school, as opposed to those outside of and I don't want to call them technical because you have so much of the technical, they would be more of the vocational side that has fallen away because it's less of a requirement, less of an importance at this point at the young age. We're getting them attracted, getting them enticed, and we're having them go for the vocational sides as they get into high school. We take them to high school. Now you have the kid, like my oldest boy, I really want to do automotives. Okay, well, here's a magnet school that does automotive. Oh, I really want to do chemistry. Oh, here's a magnet school that has. Then they get into college or vocational technical program as secondary, as post-secondary. So it's a change in that way. We're not seeing what our parents, what my parents, grandparents always called the well-rounded education. They're not looking for the class as much. We're going to teach you some of that literature. We're going to teach you some of that. They no longer call it rhetoric. Rhetoric, logic, those come into the other classes, but you don't have those courses longer. So they are pulled into other areas.
Yeah, in fact, I think a lot of those classes no longer serve a purpose because the purpose that they serve no longer exists. And I'll give you a short with like home ec and with automotives. Most automotives right now, cars are disposable. You cannot repair them. They're one-shot deals. So there's no point in teaching a kid to fix it because you couldn't fix it to begin with. So most modern-day cars right now, you have to take it to the shop and they're one-shot deals. Certain transmissions, they're not rebuildable. They have to be replaceable. If you go to a grocery store, you see single-serving foods, TV dinners, pre-prep meals, certain things already box canned and stuff for you. So the cooking aspect of it was literally wiped off because as convenience, they made already prepaid foods out of it. You can go into a supermarket, buy yourself all the stuff to make a prepaid foods, throw it in the microwave, throw it in the oven for a few seconds, and you're eating. So that was taken out from it. So that's why the curriculars changed. So you see that happen all the time with it. And think about it, back in school, the people who didn't read the book used Cliff Notes. They didn't want to invest the time to read it back then. And that was back in our generation. Now, going back to like TikTok, they're getting little excerpts of it. The only thing is what happens with it, though. The downside that I see with the modern technology is you don't have time to ruminate and to think about it and get all the information. Going back to what Rob said is, I can't teach you to rebuild the transmission. You have to experience it and you have to do it. But I can give you a 15-minute excerpt. What the problem is, that 15-minute excerpt doesn't tell you all the information. How many videos did you see about a guy explaining how to rebuild a car or how to do your brakes? But they forget how to show you how to jack up your car safely without falling on it. Well, that's the part that's missing in modern technology. It's sometimes that the hyper focus of getting the information out, you miss the previous information that you need to do it safely or in context or carefully. So if you look at like YouTube, a prime example, they give you videos to do it out, and it's like, well, you do this, you do this, you do this, do this, and you're like, what did you do? You jump from A to Z to B to D to E to F. You don't go in linear order. You don't show that. You got to put the jacks in. You got to make sure your car's safe. You got to take it off before you take the wheel off. You got to, just doing the brakes. You have to know how to support and jack up your car properly. You never see a video that starts off with that. They start off with doing the brakes. They assume you know how to jack up a car safely without it falling and killing you. That's the part that's missing. Because if you never done brakes before, you think, oh, I just jack up my car, leave it on the jack, and hope the jack holds it up. And to many chagrin, it doesn't do that. They've lost that part. It's lost in translation. So that's the only thing I see with TikTok is it's not always the full story, and people make judgments, and because of that, it's the quickness of information and the lack thereof because of it. So it's like you reading the back of a book and going, "That was a great book."
Yeah.
The little expert, the little thing in the back saying, "This book is about this, this, this," and you go, "That was a great book." But you really know nothing about the book, and you're critiquing the book on that little thing that you read in the back without ever reading the book. So when you ask certain people, can you defend your thought, your idea, what it is? They've only read the back of the book. They never read the book. So what is their critique? What are they standing on? So as them going faster with information, and I agree with Rob, they're taking in lots and lots of information. They don't stop to think, where's it coming from? What's it pertain? And what am I missing? What's the whole picture? So it's skewed a little bit. And we, as a different generation, can see that because we're like, wait a minute, I read 1984. I know what George Orwell is because I actually read the book. But wait a minute, you're telling me that wasn't in the book? No, no, no. I read the book. You read the cliff notes. And that's what I noticed in some of the generations. That you look at it, they talk out of pocket because sometimes it's they know enough to be dangerous. That's you know enough to be dangerous, and that's what it is. Sometimes they just know just enough to be dangerous, but not enough of the whole thing. And that's unfortunately what I see is the downside to it is they fall into that kind of category. It's easy you can fall into that category. Sorry.
Okay. Hopefully you're drinking lots of water.
It's water. Totally water. I got dry throat right now. I don't know what it is. It's kind of with the atmosphere.
No, you're not.
Mm.
No, it's all valid points.
Oh, I got one question for you guys,
Okay.
and it's a fun one. 80s cartoons in the 80s. We could do 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Yes.
That would be great for a live action adaptation.
Yeah, Mike and I were talking about this at work, and okay, good. Let's talk about this before I pass out completely because as much as I want to stay up later, I think I'm fighting something.
Mm.
All my energy is sapped, not just during this podcast, but all day.
Yeah, so it's going around.
I start doing it. Oh, I need to sit down. Oh my god, I'm exhausted.
Awesome. So what was your choice?
Galaxy Rangers.
Galaxy Rangers.
Galaxy.
That's an.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
would you do it as
go ahead.
like a movie, or would you want to do it like in a series, like in parts?
Oh, definitely a series, but I think a movie
Okay.
would be good.
A movie would be good.
Same thing with Pirates of Dark Water. All of the Silverhawks, Thundercats, Tiger Sharks. None of those ever got a real chance. What's another good one?
Well, I think Thundercats would be a good one if they did the first one of them escaping their planet and crashing on Third Earth.
Yeah.
And that's where they leave the movie. So it's they're escaping Thundera before the destruction, them in it, Lino happening, and that's the first movie. And you do live action. So you put guys in prosthetics, go kind of old school with some of the stuff. You leave the digital effects for the digital effects for it, but you get people in live action costumes and you make them look the characters, play through the mask and stuff. And I think it could be a good movie. And you don't play it for laughs or for kids. You make it like think of it like The Hobbit. You do it with that kind of reverence, and I think it could pull off. Even though like you have snarf and stuff, you have the comic relief. But if you don't play for laughs, you play for what it is. Then I think it could be an interesting.
You're right, because they just kind of rush you through. I mean, they'll probably do Flash Gordon again, but again, that's already done. But the early '80s comic or cartoon was really good for its time. And they don't. Thundercats starts like Superman, where you're kind of thrust into, oh my god, the planet's dying. Wait, what? Why? What? Hold on, what's going on? And then that's only part of that. That satisfies the initial questioning before. Here we're going to, like you said, Third Earth, which is Mumra, the ever living. He's awesome.
Yeah, because if you did that, then what happens? It established the character growth, and you have a young Lionel, and at the end of it, when they crashed, you have the old Lionel, and established with the mutants with all their conflict. It gives the story. Also, it is going to show Jaga's death, the father figure dying, and everything going in the spaceship and their heroic journey. So establishes the Thundercats as who's the Thundercats. Then the next movie can be they're establishing themselves on Third Earth. The uncovering of Momra, because Momra was always on Third Earth. So Momra should never be in the first movie because he's not part of that story. He's only discovered when they're on Third Earth. He only comes in later. Which Hollywood would put him automatically in the movie too early. You know. The other one I think that would be good, and that I would like to see, is like one of my favorites. But I think they would have to do it as a series on HBO or something like that. You would have to do Robotech. Macross. But that would be so CGI heavy that I don't know if it would be cost effective. But it would be an episodic tale that you could do like a Lord of the Rings thing. Several movies. Well, then yeah, or see, everyone done the traditional ones where you have to go and look at something obscure as for like comic book movies or cartoon movies at the time.
See, I would want to do Johnny Quest as a series, but the one that really stands out to me because it was a very, very formative was Wizard. I would love to see Wizards done.
Wizards
live action.
Ralph Bakshi movie.
Yep. With Avatar,
Weehawk, and
yeah,
Illinois.
I think that one would lend itself really well, and it would go if it was done right as a film, motion picture. It would go really well right now because Lord of the Rings and the Wheel of Time and all the rest of them are still very popular, but it's enough of a departure. It's not in the ethereal, long time ago, possible different timeline Earth. That it is the true beyond the post-apocalyptic period. So now we are at a time when it's our planet, but it's a time when all that we have known has disappeared, and now we've come full circle to have orcs and goblins, trolls and elves, fairies, all now having sprung as the mutation as a result of this great cataclysmic war that had taken. But I think that one could be done really, really well. And you could leave some of the silliness in there because that's part of what makes it. But can you imagine? I mean, Frank Bakshi was using the rotoscope.
Those lousy atrocity-filled vermin.
Exactly.
They killed Fritz.
You could have these wonderful sweeping components that go, and you've got these wonderful battle scenes and all of these things going on as you go. And then to enjoy it, you go through these great battles, and they're going through all of these things, and then you show up at the church. All right, what do they say? They're not going to do anything. All right, take them out.
Yep.
And then blow up the church.
Yeah, Wizards is I would say Thundar the Barbarian before Wizards, but Wizards is definitely on the list. It's a great movie.
I would love to see them do the Johnny Quest stuff
Yeah.
If they did it as a series, you could really have a good time doing it. But I would want some good strong actors, and I would want some strong writers. That would be another one like we've talked about before, where I would be looking for these exceptional Hollywood storytellers,
Yeah.
the people who can
Hold
craft
on,
it
you're on
for
to
our
something.
episode.
Hold on, you're on to something. I know the kid that played Joffrey in Game of Thrones, which he was fucking amazing as that character, because I read up to book 3, halfway through book 3. He would be a great Johnny.
Yeah.
He really would. Because if he can play that good a villain, he's going to be that good a hero.
And you've got to have somebody. I would love to see somebody.
Who would you pick as race?
What is his? Matthew McConaughey is the one that comes to mind.
You would pick him
as Race Bannon.
Not Brad
I would
Pitt?
choose him as Race Bannon because he's the
I
right
can-
age. He's an older gentleman,
Yeah.
but he's not too old that
Yeah.
you can't believe that he's still strong, but he's old enough to show that he's got this experience, that he's got this knowledge, that he is potentially this special agent, special operative of the government, who is there to protect the doctor and his family. But he's also intelligent enough, he can play it intelligent enough to be relatively equal in presence and capacity.
Yeah.
His experience and skills are in the martial world of martial arts and combat,
Military and special
Right.
forces.
So that, and he's able to kind of blend in, because that becomes the part that Race Bannon was meant to be. So Race is walking around with the boys, walking down the beach, and he's in his shorts and he's got his shirt on and it's slightly open, but he doesn't look like a special operations.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he can kill
Team member.
everybody on the beach.
So
Then
that's
they can-
where the difference comes.
See,
Yeah.
I
Then
would say, okay. Oh, go ahead, Guy.
Well, I mean, with Johnny Quest, you have a little things like Indiana Jones-esque with their adventures and how they play. Also, it's real world. You don't have to use a lot of CGI only when you need it because it's live action. So this lends a lot.
Hold on. Would you keep it in? It's in the 60s, right? Is it Johnny Quest?
Well,
Yeah.
you
Takes
could
place
do it
in
in
the 70s. Yeah.
you could do it in that era. It's a capability of it,
Yes,
and you
please.
could do it modern era.
Yeah.
You could do modern era. It still plays the same.
I think it's
with it.
better for the time. Much like The Shadow and The Rocketeer and The Phantom. They're better in
It
their
just feels
own
better.
time period. You shouldn't modernize them.
It'll be aesthetic. When I mean modernize, it just happens in modern time, but the story's still the same. Once you modernize it too much, it loses the flavor. Once you do the aesthetics of the 70s, then it's a period, kind of a period movie. Then you're limited of what happens in the 70s and the technology of the 70s. So you could do it, but you have to do it just right. What would happen? So the example would be, it would be more of a Dr. No versus a newer Bond movie.
Okay. For example,
That's
hold
yeah.
on. I love Hong Kong Phooey and Captain Caveman, but if I was going to do a Hanna-Barbera movie, even though the Blue Falcon is awesome, he's basically Batman. The racing, when they're all racing the cars against one another, that would be far more entertaining because it would be a Cannonball Run or a a lighter Mad Max version, and we know that people are still into that because car porn exists as long as there's been cars.
But you have to be careful because you know where that is going to be directly compared. The Great Race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That the Wacky Racers is going to be compared to Leslie
You froze
and
on us.
all the. Oh.
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
We heard the Great Race, and then you froze.
Okay, so you've got the Great Race, because now you've got the two main characters. You've got the Doctor, and you've got the Great Leslie. So now that's basically the Wacky Racers. You've got Penelope, and then you've got
Penelope
oh
Pit
good,
Stop.
and what's his name? Snidely Whiplash was the
With Muttley.
Snidely's. Yeah, his primary character was the antithesis. So you've got all of that. So those become interesting. If we were going to go for similar things, They tried to do the live action of Mr. Peabody, which,
Yeah.
But
The cartoon
you
was
know,
good.
I mean, I would be more if I was going to take one of those and try and do a comedy. But they tried it too with Brendan Fraser, where he was the
Dudley Do Right.
Dudley Do Right. So they tried that.
It was
I
funny.
think that was a little played a little too campy, but
Hold on. I have to give a shout out because in the mid 90s, late 90s, early 90s, they did a Boris and Natasha movie, and Dave Thomas played Boris, and was it Sally Kellerman?
But wasn't that the Bullwinkle?
Well, Bullwinkle.
Yeah, that was the Bullwinkle movie.
Rocky and Bullwinkle
That was
are in it, and Andrea Martin plays Rocky, and this other guy plays Bullwinkle, but they beat them up pretty quickly because it focuses.
And then John
more
Candy.
John Candy
John
is an amazing.
shows up. He shows up as one of the handlers, one of the other agents of Fearless Leader.
Mm-hmm.
Fearless Leader.
Well,
Hold on.
I mean, the Johnny Quest portion is a great idea. Whether you do it in the 70s, then you have the camp of the 70s, or you do it modern era, you just have but the story will stay the same. You don't have to put the tropes of the modern era, but keep it in it. Like a perfect example. Okay, where people will do this cartoon wrong is they'll make it too transformery, and you don't do that. You remember the cartoon in the 80s, Mask?
Yes. Good show.
Okay. Good show. How I would do Mask. Everybody focuses on the transformation parts, the gimmickry of the cars. But you focus on the equipment as like Bond. They're gadgets. These are about the people and the masks that they have. They're agents. They're like 007s. So you make it like a Kingsman episode.
Yep.
You have a society. You have the mask. Each one is addressed by their mask or their secret code. And they have vehicles and equipment that may transform or gimmicky. That Jeep turns into a boat to make an escape. But it's not who they are. They're characters. They just use different equipment, just like Bond will, to escape and to accomplish the mission.
Yeah.
So you have masks that is done like in the form of Kingsmen, where they go on their missions, but you don't know what equipment they have because they never show it to you until they reveal it to you. That would be the whole stick at the movie is they have somebody like you, but they never show the audience what the trick is until the trick surprises you. You're like, oh my God, you don't see do you just know they have a weapons guy? You know they got weapons. They gave you this car. You don't know what it does. You don't know what's in it until it shows you what it is. So the whole idea is you see it through them. That's how I would do masks, like a Bond, modern day Bond, modern time. Each one has their mask. They're fighting Venom, terrorist organization, exactly like it. But you do it like a Kingsman. Each one has their personal identities.
With CGI,
Johnny Quest. You don't have to have Johnny Quest. Doesn't have to have the international world fighting baddie. They always had a regional bad guy. For Gospel Seed, they were after the pirates. When they were going after the old German general, or the old German colonel who lived up on the mountaintop, they only came across him because they were in Eastern Europe at the time. Found the bad guy who was doing all these problems. So each of the baddies is more of a regional baddie. It's because Dr. Quest is doing something. He's got some project that he's working on. And, of course, he brings the boys with him and Race is there because Race is his backup and his security from the government.
Yeah.
But it's not that he's going up against this credible baddie. I'm not going up against Spectre. I'm not going up against Dr. No. Yeah. It's more along the line of I am going up against a regional bad guy who's out causing trouble.
It's a
And
lot more Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you don't play it like Scooby Doo, but you play it like Bond. But what it is it's kind of like Indiana Jones. They discover the bad guy. They don't go looking for the bad guy. They always discover him, and they foil his plan of it. But they're never looking. They're trying to solve a problem. Dr. Quest is trying to solve a problem in the region or in the location. In solving that problem, he finds the cause of it, whether it be a villain or whatever, or something else happens that moves the plot along. So with it, you can do Johnny Quest in the modern day, and it always changes. It kind of has a Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones aspect to it, has a little bit of a spy aspect to it with the espionage portion of it. But really, it's also too like a Goonies episode. The kid aspect of it is like, oh, we're going to go on an adventure. Our parents don't need to know.
We'll save the
Yeah.
day.
It's the thing that drew me to Clive Cussler. Clive Cussler had his primary characters, and they worked for a quasi-governmental agency called Numa, which actually exists in the real world because Clive Cussler took his money, opened this non-governmental cult, and the whole story is you've got the primary character and his sidekick who are former military special forces, and they worked together in the military. You never really get into that part of the backstory except to explain why they're doing some of the things that they're doing. But again, they stumble into these issues. They're not up against the world, this world organization trying to destroy everything. Stumble into a situation where you've got a bad guy who's doing something in a region shouldn't be doing. And they stumble into it, and because they're good guys and they work for Numa, and their boss is one of their old commanding admirals. So you've got this group of guys that they have to spend as much time and energy using their wits, knowledge, and background because they don't have the U.S. government to save their ass in these events. So that's kind of the interesting part of it is these guys they're out there, they're doing it, and their boss, the admiral, is like, what have you guys found now? All right, go take care of it. We'll use our resources to protect you guys. But remember, we're not the government. You don't have C-130, AC-130s coming to save your ass. So be careful.
Shockingly familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Would you pick The Rock for Race Bannon or Vin Diesel or even Carl Urban? I think he would do it.
Carl Urban would be better.
Race. You're right. You need somebody more versatile.
Carl.
But who's
somewhat more? Because with The Rock and Vin Diesel, they're always The Rock and Vin Diesel. You don't see nobody else but them. Where Carl Urban can morph, and he could change his characteristic. He'll dye his hair and do it, and he'll become that character. So I see him more where he can actually become him. Where you look at him and go, oh, I see Race. I can see him.
I almost said Dr. Venture. Dr. Quest.
Yeah, you'll hear that.
Rock! Oh, jeez. It's like Dracula versus Yoda in there. I love the Venture Brothers. Who would you pick as Dr. Quest?
Well, he could play it, but it depends on the dynamic. You would get something like Michael Douglas.
Oh, good. Don't say Pedro Pascal, please.
No, Pedro Pascal doesn't have the gravitas. Michael Douglas looks like he could be really honest and sincere with you, but in the next moment, he could be so involved with his work that he needs to get it done and focus. You could see him as a military man and as a father and as a kind of. So you could see.
He's too old.
Yeah, but I would want somebody young.
Yeah, somebody younger. But you have to have somebody with that kind of gravitas where you look at him and you want to listen to everyone.
Yeah, no, I'm not denying Michael Douglas's ability as an actor, but you're still looking at him like I am from Falling Down. That was 30 years ago.
well, if you were going to do modern day, and they wouldn't be Pedro Pascal.
Trying to think.
Javier.
I could almost see Bill Burr taking that role on.
I was going to say,
I agree with you. If he doesn't do his Bill Burr shtick,
he was,
Right.
if he
If he's playing the character.
Bill
if
Burr
he
was
plays,
surprisingly good in The Mandalorian. 5
yeah,
stars.
Yes.
if he plays it like Mayfield, if he plays it like Mayfield, his character in the Mandalorian, I can see that
Yeah.
because you can see
Yeah.
he has some
If
regrets.
it's
He's
just
grown with some doubt.
naturally, yeah.
If he gets away from his Bill Burr stick and can play that, yeah, I can see it because he's got
You
old
let
enough.
him. I was just say you let him do that with race in short spurts in the
Yeah.
middle towards the end. Oh yeah, okay, we took care of it. Now we're going to give it a quick little comedic shot so that all 4 characters, so that Haji and Johnny and Dr.
Bandit.
Quest
The duh.
race can all have themselves a good time. They can have,
Yeah.
okay, well, we did it. Oh, and here's a quick joke, but we're not going to get too crazy with it, and we're going to shop the show. That's fine because he can pull off good little short jabs. They can have a good time with it. But like you said, he played the character very well, Mandalorian. He can bring that serious aspect to it. I could even, quite frankly, because of the work that he did, I could even see Jim Parsons playing that position because he has the acting chops that he could easily play the character. He can pull it off. He can be as strong and dominant as he needs to be on the scientific side, and he can bring the human emotional side into it. And he can play. He can push some of the comedic points that would bring it along. And the time that he spent on The Big Bang Theory and in some of the motion pictures that he's done,
Kind of solidifies, yeah.
it solidifies that he is somebody who can stand in as a scientific person with that kind of intellect.
Yeah.
He's played it to the extreme, but he can show that.
I think that
Yeah,
he has the range too, where he can be ice cold, or because even though the Venture Brothers is a parody of Johnny Quest, but Dr. Venture and Dr. Quest are kind of the same person because, well, actually, no. The original Dr. Venture and Dr. Quest are kind of the same person, where they're like you, like you just said. Well, I'm just going to reiterate what you just said, where he's completely passionate about some things, but most of the time he's aloof to the science.
Yeah. So it works well for that because he's well rounded. Character is not so overly consumed with the science that he can't understand the world around him. So he's not that bordering on that extreme autism or narcissistic scale. He understands.
Yeah, he's older now where you could see him as a father figure, and yet he's got the gravitas where he can play a scientist. He can back up the science and stuff with it without sounding too nerdy, as long as he stays away from the Sheldon aspect of it, because everybody will want him to play Sheldon, but if he plays it straight up with a little bit of it, would be great because it'll go a long way. Because you could see that with it, he could play that. I know that he's smart enough to do what he needs to do and everything of it, but he's also kind enough to be the dad. Because remember, these are 2 kids that are there. So he's part of it as well as part of the family. So you could see that with Haji, with how we would talk to him, how we would respond to him, that he's got a general intellect, but he also has to be personable.
That's why I see McConaughey playing off against him, only because McConaughey's a bit older and he has that presence. He can step in and be a presence without having to be overwhelming, without having to put a whole lot of verbiage into it. He has the ability, he understands how to present himself in a powerful position, but he also understands how to fade in the background. And that's something that Race is, as the character, is supposed to be extraordinarily good at. Race can walk in, he can command a room.
Yeah, McConaughey would be good about it. Oh, we lost him.
Rob?
You okay, Rob?
You froze. Bear with us. Technical difficulties.
Yeah. Okay, you broke up there a little bit, Rob.
No,
Well, I was going to say, because he can do an extraordinary job of blending in. Race can blend in anywhere,
yes.
disappear. Race can also walk in and command a room, and so that's part of that character. And McConaughey has shown that he can do that in The Lincoln Lawyer and so many of these others. He can walk in, okay, I'm back here, and now I have to take charge.
Well,
Step back,
I
fall to the side.
let me go ahead with McConaughey. When you watch Dazed and Confused, which is a stoner movie, he's kind of a creepy character, but he's a realist in the aspect of, oh, they're gonna make you try to follow rules all your life. You gotta, make your own choices. Then you see him in shit, the movie where he's fighting dragons with Christian Bale, and he's a hard ass.
Yeah.
He's a badass.
Yeah.
And then you watch the movie The Gentleman, where he's more of a cerebral character, but he's also a blood, he'd fucking kill you if you threaten his business. But he's also intelligent. So I agree. McConaughey shows the depth that I would definitely like to see him as Race.
Oh, and he played that character essentially in Sahara. That was a Clive Barker book, and that is those two characters.
Yeah,
those are
pretty much.
McConaughey's character there becomes
It's diverse.
what I would expect Race Bannon to be. So I can walk in, hi, how you doing? Yeah, I can be the hero, I can be the good guy, I can be tough, and also slip into the back. You didn't see me.
Yeah.
The good thing with McConaughey is that he played villain roles, so he can have a threatening manner if he chooses.
Yeah.
So when things don't take him seriously, then he can go into that fight mode like Race, and all of a sudden you can see him become that soldier, become that badass. And that's the thing with Race that you see, because he doesn't always show it. He just slips in, slips out. That's what he does. But when he needs to get dirty, he can get dirty. He can show that side, then he reverts back. That's the thing I like about Race's character.
Yeah.
Another guy who could play either position, but if I was going to go head to head, I would put him as Dr. Quest. Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah.
Oh, Viggo Mortensen.
Could be either one.
Viggo Mortensen as Dr. Quest, and put McConaughey as Race Bannon. Those two guys, because Race and Dr. Quest are both in the cartoon, they're about the same build, about the same size. So you've got two guys that could easily stand with each other, and you look at them and say, okay, these guys, they could play off very well as longtime friends.
Yeah.
And having both, they both present like they are wiser than perhaps years may betray, but they look.
Damn it.
Oh, I know what he's going to do. That they look similar and portray off each other. Yeah. That you could use it as part of the story that Race, in a sense, is his bodyguard, could also be his double. In some aspects of it, where if he needs to be put in a dangerous spot, Race is going to take that bullet. He's going to pretend he's Dr. Quest, and that where the line's a little bit blurred. So you could see where Race would say, no, I'm the decoy. I do this, Mr. Quest. That's my job. And you can see that happening, which makes perfect sense.
And Haji is the only one I would want to cast very carefully, because you're going to lose the turban, you're going to lose the white suit, you're going to lose the ascot with the big ruby, and it's going to be more of a really close friend to Johnny. Mm-hmm. So Haji is somebody who's been adopted by Dr. Quest for all intents and purposes. It should be that. I don't know that was ever really written into the storyline, other than very, very close, was known forever, and they had grown up together. But that's something that you could play on very well. Bring in a number of really good Bollywood actors that you could probably grab to bring in.
Oh, yeah.
And put them in there. Keep the same heritage, but lose all of this lose all of the way out stuff
Yeah.
that goes on. He doesn't need the turban unless you're going to
No.
play him as a true Sikh, which would be a little different.
If you're gonna do it a time period thing, then you need the turban and the suit, or you have him more like Short Round, where
Yeah,
he was starving in the streets, and the Quest family
and they
saved
saved him.
him. Yeah,
Because that could be the lead into the story. So the beginning, the first show, you talk about how they come together, or we see them, everybody's talking, and now you get to have the reminiscence, and then you've got Dr. Quest and Race talking,
yeah.
looking at the boys. You remember when we first met Haji? Oh yeah, that was when we were
Because
at,
I have
and
no
then
idea. Yeah,
you can play that part into it, and then. But because at that age, he's now been there long enough that he and Johnny are at the same uh, education level and all the rest of it. So you can play him along. But I would, in all honesty, unless you're going to make him a Sikh, I would lose the turban and the white suit. Put him in, let him wear, kids' clothes, or perhaps because he's Indian, he's dressing a little nicer than Johnny. Johnny's wearing the polo shirts, and Haji always likes to wear his button-down shirts.
no, Haji
He
needs a
likes the
shirt.
long sleeve.
Haji
He
needs a
likes
shirt
he
from
likes to
the.
dress nice.
He needs a shirt from the '80s with like Care Bears or shirt tails on it.
Well, he's always dressed nice. And the other thing you play with Haji at that point is Haji's a little bit of a player.
True.
So
Yeah, 'cause
Johnny's the buddy. They're having a good time, but Haji's kind of the player. He's, hey, Haji, come on, we got to go. Oh, he's always talking to the girl.
yeah,
True.
he's good with the ladies for getting in and stuff, and he can play the young adult kid aspect, and then he can be real intellectual. So if you use that, you take like Short Round, and you kind of incorporate him that he's just as capable, just as smart, because of his association with it, that he plays it up, and he's good with the ladies, but he's not insulting to the ladies, but he can get information from them. He's
Right.
sweet
He's
talk.
got the street smarts that Johnny doesn't have because he grew up, but the family took him in, and he's now, and maybe you make that a part of it. So, well, Haji, you're my son. Johnny, you and Johnny are brothers now. So that becomes an added step, an added portion of the tale. And
Mhm.
now that draws in because now you've taken it and you put it into more of a context that the current and the coming audiences are going to look at and take as this is a value we like. This is something that we embrace as we go forward. So this is an idea that we can get behind and we can work. So start that, like we've spoken about before. You start weaving in some of the current cultural ideas and ideals, pull some of that stuff in, and now you just sucked in a good portion of the crowd that you're hoping to grab. They're going to
Yeah.
jump in. Now you've got a strong following. We want that kind of. But
Yeah,
gentlemen, it's time for me to turn into a pumpkin.
oh yeah, it's
Oh,
a 15.
damn it! I didn't get to mention Battle of the Planets or Black Star or
Gotcha,
Lone
man.
Star or dude. There's like 15 others that I would like to make a.
Oh yeah,
We just talked about
that,
Thundar. I think Thundar the Barbarian would go off great right now, especially with Fallout 76. But yeah,
we'll
Yeah,
do part two.
we'll have to do part 2 next week.
We're gonna do part two next week or so. Not continue.
that's right.
Thank you for watching. Stay geeky. Remember, thank you. We are the Supreme Council of the Master Geeks Lodge. And tune in next week. Thank you very much and have a great night. Yeah, I'm absolutely exhausted. Have a great night, guys. You take it easy.
Good night,
And as
everybody.
always, be good if you be good.
Be good. Don't get caught.
Don't get caught. Tell them nothing.
Take care, sir.
Absolutely. Oh, now it's doing it again. Damn it. It's showing our picture where it should be allowing me to. OBS is acting bizarre. All right. Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
I'll